was discussing current cash projections and then just going over the adopted budget and where we're at currently. So just to give a quick update, as of July 1, as far as cash, we have a little over $3.2 million in cash as of today, with all the expenses, the minimal revenue that's coming in. We have a little over 1.6. We're still waiting for the final actuals for September, and then we're projecting October, November, and December, and that's based on current revenue or current levels. So if our projections pan out, we're at about ending cash at about $377,000. Now, mind you, that's if we don't open anything up. I know that we're into the orange tier, or red tier. We'll go over a little bit more. So we will be bringing that back in November for another workshop.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? May I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Chair Magner?
Aye. Number 5, presentations, the district highlights. Looks like our Miss Macy will do it for us, so you have our attention, ma'am.
All right. Good evening, Chair Magner, Board of Directors, district staff, and for any public that are calling in or watching, my name is Macy Trueblood, and I am the Recreation Supervisor for the district. So with everything with the COVID-19 pandemic, I know a lot of us know that we've had to take a step back from programming and put some things on hold, but we are very excited to bring the community members some new programs, not only virtual, but in-person programs as well. So to start, we will be starting virtual runs this week. We are starting with a fall into fall themed run. These runs will kick off every few weeks. It'll be a $10 registration fee. Run it at your own time. Whatever day of the week you want to run it, just go ahead and submit your times to our recreation specialist when you do complete it. You can register online, and then all of our runs will be posted online, so the dates and times and registration periods for those. One of our most requested programs is coming back. We are starting Outside Bingo next week. This program is so requested that it is already waitlisted. So we will be offering a maximum of 30 seats for now, on reservations required. Because this is outdoor, we are asking that anyone who's coming to participate bring some sunscreen, wear a hat, just be prepared for the elements. And for any more information, you can call or visit our website. Just a reminder for those who are registered for this upcoming bingo, the buy-ins start at 11 a.m. sharp, so get there on time to get your daubers. One program that is still thriving is our food distribution on Fridays. Last week we gave about 60 bags to our residents. So this program is thriving. We have a great partnership with Grocery Outlet and Trader Joe's. Another new program that we're bringing back is our morning stretch and walking group. This is on Monday and Wednesday mornings. Morning stretch takes place from 8 to 8:30, and our walking group takes place from 8:30 to 9:30. No registration required, but please, like all of our other programs, we do ask that our participants bring their masks while they're interacting with others. Another program that we are super excited to bring back is our Halloween in the Park. Now, we've had to tailor this event due to state and county restrictions and CDC guidelines. So this event is now a free drive-through event. So we're still encouraging our participants to come dress up their cars, but our trick-or-treat village will be a drive-through trick-or-treat village. Again, no registration required. It's a free event on Halloween, October 31st, from 5 to 8 p.m. Outdoor education. Last month, we had 2 hikes. We are limiting our hikes to 10 participants, and these hikes are getting wait lists. And all of our participants are saying that they're super happy with the hikes. The staff are friendly, knowledgeable. We do not have any hikes this coming October, but we will be bringing it back in November for our Hillfire anniversary hike. We are asking for all of our participants to register online. That way we can track and know who is coming and who is showing up for these hikes. This past month, we finished a few park projects. As some of you may have seen, we have our new LED marquee. We are very happy with this marquee. Helps us get more messaging out and does not require any park staff to go out there and change individual lettering. We can change this almost immediately, all virtually online. Our park staff also resurfaced our Pitch Branch basketball court. So for those of you who do play basketball, head on out and shoot some hoops. Just a reminder that our community center is a polling center, so between October 31st and November 3rd, residents are able to drop off their ballots at our community center in room 7. Again, please make sure you have your masks. And the last program I'm going to bring to the community right now is our Letters to Santa. We are bringing back this year. November 30th to December 15th, our big red mailbox will be in front of our community center. Last year we had about 227 letters, and this year Santa wants 350. So all of our community members with kids, get your kids writing their letters to Santa and drop them off in our mailbox. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Macy. Okay. We will move forward to public comment. In accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3, the board reserves this time to hear from the public. If you'd like to make comments about a matter within the board's subject matter jurisdiction, but not specifically on the agenda, in accordance with California law, the board will listen, note the comments, and may bring the comments back up at a later date as an itemized item for discussion. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. We do have special procedures in place during COVID, so I will have the clerk read the one, and then it'll come back to me, and we'll proceed. Thank you.
The emailed comment from Audra Seldine of the Las Posas Trails Committee. Dear Board of Directors, the Las Posas Equestrian Committee would like to give our appreciation for having your long-range planning committee meeting at the Las Posas Equestrian Park and walking the trail to view all the items to consider in finding a solution to keeping the equestrian park and trail system open to the residents in our area. We thank the 2 directors, Robert Kelly and Mark Malloy, and Mary Otten and Anthony Miller, as well as the maintenance crew that attended and joined us in the walk. We look forward to continuing our work together.
Thank you. I have an email from Jordan Roberts, and he has listed several items that he'd like to speak to, and we usually will do it at the time of the item coming up on the agenda. But one of them that he has is 7A, which is the consent agenda. So if he would like to, Mr. Roberts, if you're on and if you'd like to make a public comment regarding 7A at this time, you can do that.
I'm on it. Before I do that, I want to clarify, is 7A, I would like to make a public comment for 3 minutes regarding something that's not on the agenda.
Okay, that's fine.
I want to clarify, is the comment towards 7A included with that 3 minutes, or is that going to be included with the specific agenda item?
Well, 7A will be with the consent agenda, and so unless somebody pulls it out, there will be no public comments during 7. So,
Okay, in that case, I'll take this time to address my public comments, and then if I have time to address 7A, I'll go ahead and do that as well. So please just let me know when to start with my 3 minutes.
okay, you're on.
Okay, I'd like to start by thanking the board and district for holding its first live-streamed meeting. I appreciate the recent move towards accessibility and transparency. Tonight, I'd like to talk about the employee bargaining that has been going on for the last 3 years. Following unfair labor charges, the Public Employment Relations Board, PERB, has found that Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District failed to meet and confer in good faith and interfered with protected rights of its employees by engaging in regressive bargaining, making clearly unacceptable offers, and engaging in other bad faith bargaining tactics. What is at the crux of these intractable negotiations is that the district wants their employees to be at will and does not want to afford them due process. This essentially means that a board member could direct staff to fire an employee at any time for any reason or no reason at all. After attending the workshop prior to this meeting, I'm even more concerned about the issue because Director Malloy said the next steps he sees is cutting employees. This concerns me because there are plenty of opportunities to generate revenue and recover costs that I feel are not being taken. Over the last 3 years, countless staff hours have been wasted with this bad faith, aggressive bargaining. During the same time period, the legal services budget has ballooned and doubled from approximately $48,000 to $90,000, and would have more than doubled if the proposed budget of $100,000 had been approved. Not only have these fruitless efforts wasted our much-needed taxpayer dollars and valuable staff hours, it has sent crystal clear message to the employees of the district that their dedicated service to their community and professionalism is not valued, further emphasized by Director Malloy's comments prior to this meeting. As a taxpayer and constituent, I'm calling for an end to the ballooning legal service budget, the unfair labor practices, and the bad faith bargaining. I emphatically call on the board to end the waste of taxpayer money and staff hours and bring this unnecessarily long process to an end. After reviewing the current year's budget, I believe there are significantly better ways for the district to spend and allocate its money than drawing out this process unnecessarily. And as a follow-up, I'd like to comment that I'm very disappointed in the lack of response to our questions that have been directly related to items on the agenda or for previous meetings, including my request regarding account 7110 and why the budget was reduced from $100,000 to $90,000, as well as the other items. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I will come back to you for 8C and 8D.
Do you want any response from General Manager on the legal?
Mary, do you have any comment?
Regarding,
The legal.
The legal?
like, I can. So part of the reason is we went through the entire budget process in 4 different workshops. We look at every year where we potentially can save, where we might be able to save. So right now with the projects that we have lined up for this year, because our legal budget isn't just about personnel, but we have personnel, we have Miracle League, we have all kinds of contracts, agreements when we were working with the Boys and Girls Club. So there's a whole lot of other things that are in there. So what we look at is based on the agreements and where we're at. So one of the things I can tell you probably next year is our legal budget will go up. And that will go up because right now as we're working with the Las Postas group, there's a whole lot of property rights issues that we're going to have to deal with. So part of that budget goes back and forth depending on the projects that are coming up and where we're at with those projects.
I would like to make a comment also.
That is fine.
I'm sorry, I don't recall this gentleman's name.
Jordan Roberts.
Mr. Roberts, if you're going to state the record, you need to state the whole record. Mr. Malloy, in that previous comment, clearly stated that he did not want to cut employees. He also mentioned, as you stated, that employees would be next. But he also said at the same time that that is not what he wanted to do. And so let's get the whole record out there.
And that's what I appreciate you doing by holding these televised and live streaming meetings, because I didn't go on to the rest of that because I only have 3 minutes to comment, but with regards to him stating that the next step that he saw was cutting budget or cutting employees, that was what I recall him saying, and anything further than that, you've explained, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on.
Any more general comments?
Yes, there is another public comment.
Wait,
Hold
I
on.
don't
So
have anything.
do we have, Karen, do we have any other public comments under general public comments or any other comment cards under just general?
I did not receive any other than
I
Jordan.
have none.
Okay, so then,
If you have a general comment, you can make
right, so if we have any other, so we have how many people on the line?
4.
So so the first one is Ms. Dransfeld. So if she wants to make public comment, she can for 3 minutes, so.
Okay, we'll allow you to have 3 minutes, but you do need to let us know ahead of time so we're prepared, so, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Beth Dransfeld, and I am a constituent. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. Let me get my dog out of the office. All right. I am a constituent employee and candidate for PVRPD Board of Directors. My public comment goes to address what happened prior to this meeting in the quarterly financial workshop update. Public comments were entertained and several questions posed, just as Mr. Roberts has stated as well. Over the past 6 weeks, myself and other members of the community have asked questions with no response in various committees. We submitted in advance questions related to specific agenda topics, but were ignored. Our comments were not acknowledged, not even a courteous thank you for your questions. No wonder why members of the community are infuriated. I have never been treated so poorly in a public capacity. City Council, while members may not agree with my statements or questions, they've at least attempted to answer to some degree or have treated me with respect. My question is then, what does an individual need to do in order to get an honest and direct answer? Thank you.
Can I just make a quick statement? Just a general?
You may.
I'm just going to make a very general statement to everybody in the public or community out there. My telephone number is published. You can call the office. You can get it. You can get my home number. I receive telephone calls from the public over the last 8 years. I have answered every one of them. I have talked to people. I've met with people at coffee shops. I've met with people at various sites where we looked at things and everything else. Anybody from the community is always welcome to call me. I'll meet with them. I'll discuss. I'll go over. I'll listen to your input and everything else. And I'll be happy to try to educate you or bring you up to speed of something that you missed. So I'm just saying I've always been that way. I've always been open. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will move on to...
Anybody else?
I'm sorry?
Was there anybody else who wanted to? Oh, okay.
We'll move on to 7, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to, or is there any discussion for the consent agenda, or do we move forward and make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Karen?
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Chair Magner.
Aye. Okay. 8A, consideration and approval of the 2020 Camarillo Christmas Parade. Santa hits the road. Connor, are you going to drive Santa around for us?
All right, so good evening, Chair Magner. Good evening, members of the board. I am Connor Sudani, Recreation Specialist for the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, and I am here to talk to you today about the parade. So we are going with a different theme this year. We're going with Santa Hits the Road, and let me tell you why. But first, let me talk to you a bit about the traditional Camarillo Christmas Parade and how it works. So it's traditionally the second Saturday in December, starting at 10 o'clock at the corner of Temple and Las Posas Road, ending at roughly 1 o'clock when Santa hits the community center. We have roughly 100 plus attendees and 50 vendors, with roughly 8,000 to 10,000 attendees from the start of the route all the way to the end where Santa's Village is at the community center. A little bit of background on the financial side. This event traditionally relies on a very productive partnership between this district and the city of Camarillo. In the 2018 parade, they provided us with 20,000 plus in-kind services to offset our total event expense of 53,000. And then in the 2019 parade, or last year, they helped us out with 25,000 plus in-kind to help offset our 64,000 event expense. So for 2020, due to COVID-19 and county restrictions to limit gatherings, we've developed Plan B. We're calling it the Camarillo Christmas Parade Santa Hits the Road. A 7-vehicle convoy to include police escorts, one of our board members, one of the city council members, along with Santa, and possibly a few community partners, visiting every neighborhood in Camarillo over 5 nights to encompass the 5 districts in the city of Camarillo, 1 per night. We're looking at December 14th through the 18th, starting at 6 o'clock, and those end times are based on the total route per night, which I'm about to show you. So for District 1, which would be December 14th, we're looking at roughly a 12-mile route and about 2.5 hours of driving, and those time frames are based on an average of 5 miles per hour for the route itself, for the convoy traveling on that route. So we would be starting at the Camarillo Public Library, zigzagging our way through that red area there, which is indicative of District 1, and ending down at Mel Vincent Park. For District 2, which would be Tuesday, December 15th, we're looking at about 13 miles and again, about 2.5 hours. This one starts down at the bottom of Paseo Camarillo and heads up where it eventually finishes at the Pleasant Valley Aquatic Center. District 3 is by far our shortest night. We have us a little over 10 miles, a little over 2 hours, starting at Carmenita Park and ending at Dos Caminos Park. District 4 is on the longer side due to the large number of residential communities in this district. We're starting down at the bottom of Adolfo Road, zigzagging our way through the Mission Oaks community, and then ending back almost where we started in the industrial area parking lot. And then last but not least, on Friday, December 18th, we have District 5, a little over 13.5 miles, 2 hours 43 minutes roughly, and then starting at Pitts Ranch Park, snaking our way down to Pleasant Valley Fields. So we've actually been working with a couple of potential key partners for this plan already. We've been working with some staff at the City of Camarillo. We've been showing our maps to members of the traffic division at the VC Sheriff's Office, and they've given us a preliminary approval. Music Freaks, formerly Rock City Studios, one of the partners that we've worked with on various special events, has agreed to provide us with some form of musical entertainment as well along the route. And then our friend David Kromka from the Ventura County Professional Firefighters Association has agreed to drive Santa on one of his antique fire trucks, as you can see there in the traditional Camarillo Christmas Parade. And then, of course, additional potential partners are coming soon, pending approval from both our Board of Directors here tonight and then City Council next week. From a financial standpoint, basically what we're looking at is an estimated $20,000 in event expenses to include around $10,000 for PVRPD staffing, with community event funding of $10,000 from the city of Camarillo, for a net total of about $10,000 in expenses. And that does not include city-provided in-kind services as well. So it is recommended that the Board of Directors approve and authorize the 2020 Camarillo Christmas Parade Santa Hits the Road special event.
Do you want to talk about the fact that, does the city know about this yet? I mean, obviously you're working with them.
Yes, sir, they do.
Has it gone to the city council?
We're going next Wednesday to make this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you're staying that. Okay,
Oh,
thanks.
excuse me, yes.
For the public. Okay,
course.
thank you.
Director Kelly? Director Malloy? You have a question?
You want me to go, or you want to go?
Why don't you go, Mike?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I want to thank the staff. I'm very impressed that you were thinking outside the box and brainstorming and coming up with ideas, and that's a very good thing. Thank you very much. I do have some issues. The first one is, since we're overlaying the city districts, our Rec and Park District obviously extends way outside of that. So you have occasionally in District 1, you have a few streets outside the city to connect up. But basically, we're avoiding whole swaths of area that are part of the Park District, but not part of the city limits itself. For example, East Loop, West Loop, going up around there, or going out into Las Postas Heights and stuff. So there are neighborhoods and stuff that will be completely missed, even though they're part of the Park District. And obviously, you can't cover every single street and everything. I understand that. But by overlaying just the city property, we're missing a wide swath of areas that are covered by us, but not the city. It's my first complaint or issue, to think about. The next issue is, no matter how you do this, there may be someone on one street over who says, oh, gee, I want it, and it's on the other street. They didn't get it or something. And it's going to be impossible, obviously, no matter which route you take. You're always going to get some people. So I have an issue that it's never going to be perfect. You can't have a win-win situation where no matter which route you pick, everybody's going to be happy. There's going to be a lot of people, if they do want to see this, they're in the wrong location or something. So that's one issue, another issue. Also, on some of these streets, there are almost no streetlights. I mean, the streetlights are really spread out far. And I guess you're going to have some lights and stuff with the parade unit, the vehicle units.
That's correct.
Yeah, but basically, some of these neighborhoods are just pitch dark. And the fourth issue I want to mention, I think a big advantage of the Christmas parade and with having Santa is for the kids, seeing all that. But obviously, starting at 6 and going to almost 9 o'clock on some of these, I think some of these kids are going to be, they're going to go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock or something, and they're going to miss this because it's going to be too late. So that's another issue I have with the time frame. Obviously, the world's not perfect, but I'm just saying those are some of the issues that are bouncing around in my head in terms of some issues with this. And I'll leave it to you, Chairperson. I have a counter proposal to make how to do this. But you want me to talk about it now, or you want me to wait and come back to it?
Why don't you finish?
Okay. My counter proposal would be for the staff to think about doing a flip. Instead of having the parade move through town, why don't we potentially take that same amount of money and spend it on making displays and lights and stuff, and going to one of our facilities that staff can pick that would be good for a drive-through, and have set up displays and all that type of stuff, and then the community can come in their family cars and drive through our facility with all the lights and stuff and displays and stuff. And then that way, we also have that material available in the future. So for next year's Christmas parade, if everything goes okay, we would have items and things that we can decorate and use over and over again. And then for the Santa part of it, I would, that, in my mind, I'm envisioning that being staying up for 2 or 3 weeks or something, whatever. But then maybe on a Saturday from, 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we can have a Santa and elves at the location where if people drive by, they can wave to Santa and say hi and do stuff. That way, and not getting out of the car for contact or anything. So that way, we're still meeting the COVID pandemic issue, but we're also meeting the issue that we have people outside the city limits who may want to be involved in stuff without them having to drive in the middle of the night or late at night out to the parade route or something. So that's just my initial reaction. I just want to mention that. And we'll see what other people think.
Director Dixon?
Yeah, I appreciate they're really the same, thinking outside the box is trying to figure out how to make this happen. I'm assuming that this is designed so that families, rather than gathering on a street corner, would be out in front of their house.
That's correct.
So the question I'd have with that is how do we publicize that so that people actually know this is going to be coming by their house and on a particular evening? First of all, do you have is there a plan for the publicity?
Yes,
and
I'll be happy to speak about it.
why don't you go ahead and do that now? Yeah.
Sure. So we've been working with, your concern is very much valid, and we've been struggling with that, or at least we were struggling with that initially as well. We didn't want to encourage massive crowds on a street corner to come see Santa because we want to, and that's why we were trying to cover as many areas of Camarillo as we could, so we would say, okay, well, he may not be here tonight, but he will be here at a later night during the week. And we've been working with one of our traditional partners in the parade, actually Cumulus Media, who has come up with a way for us to market to very specific targeted areas of Camarillo through digital advertising based on certain demographic information, for example, zip code. So those types of things we're confident we're going to be able to use to help us keep this basically what it is, a community event. Yes, thank you. We've also been using we're also at a point where we're going to use an app called Glimpse. It was actually recommended to us by the city of Moore Park when they used it for a similar type of parade event for Easter. This particular app allows you to track the location of a particular cell phone. So in this case, a staff member could have this app on their phone, be riding along with Santa, and then we could publicize the location of this phone so that you could say, where is Santa at this particular time? Use this app information to find out more or less exactly where he is during the route time.
So that app would be made available to the public so that they could track what's going on?
Yes, it's completely free.
Okay. I'm kind of intrigued too by Director Mischler's proposal too. I know you guys have put a lot of work into this, and it's on the agenda for the city right away. I don't know what our timetable is for getting this through, but we probably don't have a tremendous amount of time. We basically have a month, so there may not be time to be reconvened. Did you have a committee of people of our district and the city that work together on this?
Yes, there are a few members in this room actually, but yes, and also people in the city.
Well, overall, I think it's great thinking on coming up with a good plan. I think Director Mischler's plan is also a very interesting one too. So, see what other people have to say.
Director Kelly, you have any further comments or questions?
I probably do, as I usually do, but I think I'm more, as the gentleman stated, nothing's perfect. I'm probably more inclined to go along with the proposal as stated.
Okay. Ready?
Scrooge is on. I was pretty stunned when I read this. I knew that you were going to reinvent the Christmas parade, but I really expected it to be something about how we reinvented our Halloween event by having something in the district parking lot. The political districts in the city were formed based on where council members lived. It really has nothing to do with the geographical areas of the community, and it especially doesn't have anything to do with where the kids live. Like, I noticed there's a long run through Leisure Village. There's not a lot of Santa fans in Leisure Village. So, I mean, you got to find some way to divide it, and I understand why you picked that one, but it doesn't seem like it leads to a route. But a more concern is, the winter solstice is December 20th, and this is like days from that. And the days are very short, and it's cold, and it's dark. And how many people are going to track the Santa app to see what time to come out of front of the house and wave to Santa as he drives by? It just seems like really a stretch to me to call this a Christmas parade, especially 5 nights long with the amount of time and the amount of law enforcement resources required and the significant expense of the thing, $20,000. It seems really like we just can't have a parade this year, and this isn't a parade. You need bands, you need baton twirlers. I mean, a parade is a lot of fun for a lot of people, and participating in it is as big a deal as being a spectator. I don't know what the count is of the number of humans that are actually in our Christmas parade each year, but it's got to be close to 1,000. I mean, it's a really big participant thing, and I know I'd feel sort of awkward being in a parade, being one car of a parade of 5 cars. It just doesn't feel right to me. It feels like it's a chance for us to brand ourselves or something, and that's not what the Christmas parade is. I kind of like what Mike has in mind, although the extended period of time seems long. It seems to me it would make more sense to have some sort of drive-through event at the community center with Santa in the daytime, probably on the weekend, because that's when more kids or parents have time to bring their kids, and do something really cool at the community center, Santa-oriented, as opposed to this sort of 5 nights of wandering through town. I get you're trying to do something different and trying to, make it into something, but it doesn't feel like a parade to me. I think we'd have the kids would have a lot more fun, and a lot more kids would get to participate if we had a daytime event at the community center. So.
I just have one more comment, not in regard to what Director Malloy said, just in general. I remember when we used to have the Santa fly over with a helicopter and all that, and before they canceled it. And I remember all the kids on the street waiting outside, waiting for that. It was cold. It was in, December 24th. And all the kids would be out in the street waiting for that to come by. Now, this isn't this parade is our parade, and it's not the Santa flyover. I get all that, but I mean, I accept what Director Malloy has said. Maybe this is the year that it just can't happen. But if it's not going to happen, I don't really think it'll be because, well, let me just stop right there. Go ahead.
That it?
That's it.
Connor, I can't see you, but I'm talking to you. When I initially looked at it, I liked it. I liked the idea of being outside the box, thinking outside of the box and things. Everything that they have all brought up has gone through my mind. Also, Mike's proposal went through my mind, and I was recently involved in a occasion that we did a drive-by, and it took well over an hour and a half for probably 25 to 30 cars, and I just can't see us doing that. I guess we'll know how it's going to work when you do the Halloween drive-through. So I'm really at a loss, to be truthful with you. It sounds like a neat idea. I'm like Director Malloy. I see it comes behind my house where I've got a 6-foot brick wall. That'd be fine for my husband to peer over it, because we got an acre and a half of land, and I guess we could invite some of the neighbors and we could social distance. But I'm at a loss, so I don't know what the pleasure of the board is. So usually they don't bring these type of things to us for approval. Mary is responsible for programming, so Mary, would you like to speak?
Sure. I think it's tough. I mean, I understand everybody's viewpoints. I know that staff put a ton of time into doing this and trying to think about how we could make all of this work. And I think that's the challenge that we have, is that you're right, a Christmas parade in the past is everybody gets to come. We have thousands of people, and we know right now we can't do thousands of people. And I think, so this was one of those things of how do we reach out, feel good for the community, and this was kind of one of the things that we could figure out how that kind of fit in. Because I think one of the challenges we've thought about, Director Mishler, is if we bring Santa in, I think we're going to have an issue, because kids are going to want to stop and see him. And I think if we drive by, at least they can see him, but you can't really get out, touch, and do all those things. So I think that's been the challenge as we've gone back and forth with where the staff was trying to go with this. So the other, as you're looking, just to answer some of your other questions, there are sections that are left out, because what ends up happening is one of the vehicles will be a stage. So hitting some of those areas on East Loop and trying to get 5 or 6 or trying to pull a stage is going to be fairly difficult. So what we did try and do, or staff did, I shouldn't say I, but with Connor and other staff, we're looking at, are there other parks that we could go by? So if you did miss a neighborhood, could they go to one of the parks so they could go by there? So I don't know that there's a perfect answer to this. I would agree with all of you. There's not a perfect answer, so we were just trying to figure out how to fit within the health code that we were dealt, and knowing that the community is kind of clamoring for some type of event. So that's.
Elaine, would it be worth going through the board again, now that we've all heard each other's ideas?
I'm looking at you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, it's listening. Everybody's got really good points on this whole thing. And as I think about it, which option is the best, or should we do it at all? The not doing it at all is hard for me to go there. It's COVID has been such a downer on the year for everyone. Do we want it to be the Grinch that stole Christmas too? And I really applaud you guys for trying to come up with something that can work, and I would like us to see us try to move forward with something. I like Mike's idea. I do. One of the concerns about Elaine raised one of the concerns about traffic. That's I thought of that with the trick or treat thing that we're going to have. We got to be really sure we're not going to back up traffic all over town for that. And the same sort of thing could be an issue for a Christmas event if we held it at specific hours of the day. But I think we should try to move forward with something. It sounds like this one probably has the most momentum already moving toward it, and it might be a flop. But I think if we aggressively promote it to the public, publicize it, try to get people aware of it, and try to generate a little bit of excitement, I think I'd like us to see us move forward with something.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work very well. There's going to be a lot of people complaining that well, how come you didn't go down my street and the other street? And again, we're missing whole areas, obviously maybe because of roads and stuff, but we're going to be missing whole areas of the district, and people are going to be saying, wait a minute, I'm a district member, and how come they're only in the city, basically, except for a couple of streets here or there? So I don't like, and it's going to be late at night. If you're going to do something like this, if you're going to go with this type of running around the city thing, I would do it on a daytime on a Saturday and have 5 different segments, and they could be running one after the other, but they're doing it on a Saturday daytime thing going across the city type of thing. So the temperature is better and stuff. There's no reason. I'm not sure why you came up doing this at night versus doing it on a Saturday when you have maybe 5 2-hour sections or something, or making an hour and a half segment or something. So one convoy A will start, convoy number 1 will start, and as soon as it ends, then you just continue, you pick up with the other string of vehicles, and you do convoy 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and you do the whole thing in one day during a daytime hours. At least that gives it opportunity, because standing out at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night waiting for these guys, waiting for a parade thing to come by at a park or something isn't really going to be that exciting. And it may be raining at night or cold and windy. Who knows what's going to be happening during that time period. But if you do it during a Saturday daylight hours, you can still drive around, but then I think you have people who are not on the route, or at least have a better chance or opportunity to visit it. But I still would prefer taking that money and spending it to fix up a site. It doesn't have to be here. Maybe at the community center for drive-through, maybe at one of our other facilities, that PV Fields or something that has a large parking lot and not that many houses and stuff around there. I don't know, where you can do something, or even Freedom Park is out there in the boondocks, but doing something where people have the opportunity to drive there and just drive by and through it and see some stuff. And then we have the same materials, displays and stuff that we can always use in future activities and stuff. So I still prefer doing where the people get in the car and drive to it versus, but if you are going to have a parade, it should be during the daytime, like a Saturday, is my opinion. Oh, Eric, going to provide some feedback? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Director Kelly?
Mike's got a lot of good ideas, but the one thing I don't like about his proposal is, in order to get people to come to a venue, you're going to have a lot there to make them want to get in the car and load up the family and go there. We're talking about a ton of work that we're not actually, at this point in time, prepared to do. Doing the convoy style thing, you don't really have to have as much, because kids are going to come out of their houses. I don't know, can we follow it on an app or something so that they'll know where it is, so they know when it's coming down their street? Cool, yeah, see, they come out, they say, yell at Santa, they go back in, and we've done the best we could under the circumstances. And that's just kind of how I see just a lot of staff time. Plus, what's the learning curve? If somebody were to tell me, hey, go out and make this big display, yeah, I could go to Walmart and buy some Santa, fixtures and some candles and things. I mean, what am I going to put out there? That would seem to me would take more time for planning than we actually have. And so, like I said, there's no good way, to pull this off and have somebody not think that they didn't get their money's worth. So, yes, if we don't go to all the street, Mike's right. People are going to say, well, it wasn't even close. We couldn't even walk there. If we put up a little display and people drive by and it's not worth having driven there, they're going to say, wait, what's this? If you're going to do something, do it right. Now that presupposes that we can't pull that part of it off, which I think would be pretty difficult. At any rate, there's no good
Well, remember,
There's
you
no
have
good
2
answer here.
months. You have 2 months from now before we can do this.
I know, but it's not the only thing that we do. Staff's limited at this time, and they got a lot of things on their plate. So,
I think Macy's got a comment on that, on this, because that's a real key
You
to
guys
Saturday
need to go like this.
daytime
I
thing.
can't see.
If I may address some of Director Michelot's concerns. So
Please.
one of the reasons that we decided to do a multiple night event versus a one-day event. So you had said, why don't we do this over one day, hit multiple areas, 2 hours here, 2 hours here. One of the concerns is we are also working with a whole bunch of partners. So we have David Kromka, who is driving his fire truck. We have Santa. So typically at Christmas parade, they're dedicating 5+ hours to this event. If we made this Christmas parade a one-day event, now are we asking 10 hours of their time, 12 hours? So that's one of the concerns is we're working with certain volunteers who are volunteering their time.
No, I understand that. I didn't want to go into too many details, but my proposal would be if you did a one-day event, you have 5 different convoys. These are different volunteers, different people. There is no connection between Convoy 1 and Convoy 2. So your Santa could be,
But we're also limited on how many Santas do we have at our.
yes, I understand that. But I'm just saying, the way I would try to approach it, if you have 5 different convoys during the daytime, or you can have 2 convoys on one weekend and then 2 on the next weekend or Saturday or something. But anyway, I'm just saying. Okay, that's all. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Well, we have 10 hours of parade route. So, we're going to have a lot of time, way more time for the volunteers than what we had before. It's just a lot fewer volunteers because it's essentially a 5-car caravan. We might get more sponsor interest on a Saturday too, when they could just commit one day to it. And I don't know
Fair.
about that, but,
So why don't
we're-
we do this? Why don't we look at some of the suggestions that were brought up? We can talk to some of our partners right now. I know we have a meeting next week. We can also go back and look and see what it potentially cost, both monetary-wise as well as time-wise, if we were going to try and do something at the community center, what that would look like. Because I think everybody would agree, if we're going to do something, we want to make sure that it looks good and that we
Right.
can put something together. And it, with the trick or treating, it's fairly easy. They can come dressed up and we're just putting candy in their bags.
Right,
This is going to be a lot different. So let us come back. We'll have something, or at least have some ideas next week for our meeting. We'll put this on.
It would be great to get council's input too, because they're a big part of this every year. And
Correct.
see how they feel about it too.
So we have 3 basic concepts, if you want to get feedback from the city, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so you're going to bring it back next
we'll
week?
bring it back next week.
Okay. Connor, thank you. I know you and Eric and Macy have put lots of hours into this, and this is such a trying time that it's like, what can we do that's different and still take care of our constituents and things, and Christmas is one of my favorite things, so that's right after Halloween. Okay, so we will table that. Make sure what I got going on here. All righty. 8B, consideration and approval of professional services agreement with Lauterbach and Associates Architects Incorporated for the design and construction plans for community center kitchen remodel. Bob, are you on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's all yours.
Good evening, Chairperson Magner and directors of the board. Tonight I'm coming to you, Bob Sarasolo, to Park Service Manager, to talk about the remodeling of the community center kitchen. So, off we go. As you know, the district identified multiple locations where we could. Oh, sorry, I confused myself. I started from something different. Anyways, the district identified multiple locations where we could meet the requirements of the and expenditure of the Quimby funds. One of the projects we talked about was the community center kitchen. The kitchen went along with the community center was built in 1969. The original design had 5 classrooms, a kitchen, the auditorium, and the main office, which we call room 6 now. And the RISA room was part of that. So that was our little main office back then. Well, I wasn't around, but history. Anyways, as part of the 2020-21 budget, staff identified the community center as this redevelopment project that we could use Quimby funds at. The kitchen has had very little improvements since 1969 when it was built. The ovens and stoves, they were manufactured in 1952. They came from the Freedom Center when we took that over from the Air Force, excuse me. It was given to us. Know this history from, I couldn't find out anywhere, but Woody was here, and I made a phone call, and he gave me some info. So, as you all know, the dishwasher's been red tagged by the county. This has been going on for about 2 years now. We've been very lucky. They're ready to, I think, shut us down if they have a chance. And COVID, we haven't used it, so we're good. A little more background. The community center and kitchen are ideal for special district events such as Breakfast with Santa, weddings, quinceañeras, tough word, and other nonprofit social gatherings we have there. Existing equipment consists of 2 ovens, 2 cooktops, 2 refrigerators, an ice machine. We have double sinks and a dishwasher, and then cabinets, of course. So our revised drawings will consist of a more functional layout, storage, and items to include potential for a cooking/teaching kitchen. So we have a little drawing that's kind of a lunch date with the architect that we talked to, and he kind of drew it out on a napkin for us, an idea. So anyways, we could enable the district to offer additional classes to the community center. The youth could learn how to cook, or it being some healthy eating for seniors. So there's a lot of potential for this kitchen. So staff will work with Lauterbach and Associates architects on the design and remodel concept for the kitchen. One initial concept would be to remove that wall between room 1 and the kitchen. Right now there's 2 doors. In between those 2 doors, we'd remove that. It's actually cabinet space right now. And we'd create the teaching kitchen with a glass. We wouldn't lose space for room 1. It would stay the same. So we just open that up, and we'd put in cameras, whatnot, part of the concept.
I'm sorry, is part of the concept, are you going to have open air through there, or I'm confused? You're going to have a glass wall?
It'll be a glass wall. I believe that's what we're going with. Yeah, okay. So here's the slide. So if you look on top, it's kind of hard to read it. You might have a better one in your notebook. So it's on the very top of it where it would be.
No, I understand where we're talking about. But when I look at that diagram, I don't see any wall in there. I just see open air, and I'm happy to see open air. I'm not sure why you would need a glass wall there.
So I think either of those, today is just to kind of go through an initial design. He'd come back, just like we have before. They'd come back, an architect would come back for approval and design acceptance. This was kind of one of those of potentially what it could be. So this will come back, but it was just so everybody could have at least an initial concept drawing.
Correct. So, yeah, anyways, so it would be it's just one of the ideas we're talking about. Nothing's set until you approve it. So the proposal would include the scope of work, construction documents from the city and county, because we have to go through environmental health, structural plans for the viewing window into room 1, remodel the layout as existing workspace, removal of dishwasher, prepare a cost estimate for materials and on-site observations. This all would be part of the contract. So fiscal impact, we allocated $250,000 for this job out of the Quimby funds. They're designated in 2021 budget. Cost for this would be $20,500, not to exceed $20,500. It could be lower. But this is in case we have problems throughout when we do the demo. There might be things we haven't seen or overlooked. So, again, it's a 51-year-old building that we can't tell you what's going on. Just like when we did the pool, we had hidden costs that surprised us. So, I recommend the board approve and authorize the general manager to enter into a professional service agreement between the district and Lauterbach and Associates Architects for the design and construction plans for the community center kitchen remodel.
Okay. Director Kelly?
What all, of all the appliances that are in there, which ones besides the dishwasher are going to be replaced?
The ovens will be removed. The stovetops will be removed. One of the stovetops that currently has, I believe it has like 4 burners. Only one of them's out. We can't get parts for it. We've looked all over. Appliance people have looked, said it's on its way out. So, and then ice machine would be replaced. It's very little ice machine. It's on its last leg. We've had 2 or 3 times with it, not during COVID, but prior, we've had it worked on, and it's on its last leg.
What is the width of those ovens?
30 inches, 30 by.
For ovens that old, that would be odd that they would be 30 inches wide.
They're about 30, 36.
Are they commercial or are they?
Commercial.
They're commercial.
So, and the intention is to replace them.
Depends which direction you guys want to head to. Do we want to do a warming kitchen? Do we want to do a full-on kitchen? Again, it's whichever direction you choose to go.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to explain to the public the difference between a warming kitchen? We all know the difference, but for the people who may be watching, can you explain the difference between those two terms?
A warming kitchen is something where the groups, the weddings, whatnot, that have it centered, they can bring the food in, and they can keep it warm inside the kitchen.
Like I think most people would relate to a caterer. You're having a caterer. Okay.
Yeah, or.
I'm just trying to help the public. In other words, if a person's catering an event, the caterer needs some place to keep the food warm and stuff and prepare it to serve it to the customers. So that would be a warming kitchen.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Versus a full-on kitchen where you can make a meal.
Cook from scratch.
Right.
And so I just wanted to explain to the public what the difference is between those two terms.
Yep,
Thank you.
You nailed it.
Anything else?
No, I just wanted to
Okay.
do them the terms.
Director Dixon?
Yeah, in our packet, it says that over the past few years, that 50 groups have used this over the past few years. I mean, I'm trying to get a sense of what is the demand for this? Is this something that if we redo it, we have the expectation that we're going to have a significant demand for the use of it? Is there?
Yes, there's always a demand for it. People always ask to use it. We have groups. Not Kiwanis. We have a big one that does Karen Las Comidas. Yeah, they serve 500,000 people out of that. And again, that's a warming. They bring it in, but it's a warming kitchen. They keep things going. Weddings and everything. It'll help draw to the revenue. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we can keep that auditorium running, every Saturday by an event in that kitchen, that's great.
Okay, so yeah, the expectation. What I'm getting at is I'd hate first to be looking at committing this kind of money to a project and find that it has very little use. So you do have the sense that there's
Karen, could you, I know, and I'm going to ask Karen because she does most of the rentals. So she's going to have, this has been a conversation I think we've had with her regarding how many people ask to use the kitchen, what they use it for. So Karen?
In general, probably we're looking at maybe about a dozen plus or minus through the course of a year. Past few years, we have not pushed the use of the kitchen at all just due to the issues. The Journey is actually in there every Sunday. They use the facilities, the kitchen facilities every Sunday morning, Wednesday evenings. They use it too. They serve meals. So it's used quite a bit, and the potential would be better, because we don't advise people to use the kitchen at this time.
So if you promoted it, you think you could?
Yeah.
You could.
Oh yeah,
draw
that
a lot
wouldn't be a
more.
problem. And then the bonus of actually having a teaching class in there too would be a big bonus. We do have some, but they tend to be. We'll put them in another room, and then they have to bring in their own things and set it up on a table, and it's not really conducive for classes. And we've had seniors, too, that wanted classes as well.
That kind of goes to my second question on this, is that when we talk about, you said it's up to the board whether we want to go toward a full kitchen or just a warming kitchen. And if you want to teach class, is a warming kitchen adequate for the kind of classes that you would want to teach in there?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very.
That was one of the questions, excuse me, that was one of the questions I know that we asked the architect. And once again, if the board approves this, the architect will bring back different options and go through what those different things mean.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's my questions. Thank you.
Director Malloy?
My questions center on the choice of Lauterbach, actually, because I've seen their name in here for decades. They're one of the major architectural firms, but do they have actual experience with this kind of a kitchen project? Because I can see a lot of this has to do with food preparation, which, none of us have any experience with. And
I talked to a couple. I've talked to last architects we used for the pool in Valley Lindo, and Lauterbach knew a lot more. They deal with the county more on this issue.
Right.
So yes, they've done a lot for commercial kitchens.
Okay.
Okay. I have a crazy question. You're going to say you don't know, and I know you're going to say that, but what is the possibility that we're going to run into asbestos in that wall if we decide to take it down?
You'll find it.
Okay. But we'll do the abatement and move forward.
Being it's just a one wall, they'll plastic that off.
They'll
wear the
contain it, yeah,
spacesuits and
okay.
Up in there and vacuum it out. So it's a small area, nothing major.
Okay, okay. That's what I wanted you to tell me, was that, yeah, it would be a small enough area that they could contain it, that there wouldn't be an issue, so.
That's not.
Yes, Director Mishler?
Bob, I'm not aware of any other kitchen in Camarillo, in the region around here, that's a teaching kitchen. Is that correct? Or are you aware of any?
I'm not aware of any either.
Yeah, so this would be the first time.
Healthcare district?
What?
Camarillo Healthcare District does have one.
Well, it's not a teaching kitchen. It's a tiny little kitchen for making cookies and stuff,
It's
right?
tiny, but they do have a TV so that
Yes.
people can kind of come around and watch.
But it's for seniors, not for the community to go in there and to use it. I've seen it. We've had meetings there. I've toured it and seen it. The one at the camp, it's very nice, but it's very, very small. It's not a full-size kitchen. And it's basically for making chocolate chip cookies for the seniors and stuff and warming up. It's nice. It's cute, but it's not designed for the public.
Yeah, I didn't know they had that.
But anyway, this would be the first time in Camarillo we would have a public-type teaching kitchen that people could use.
To my knowledge, yes.
Yes, okay. And so, yeah, and I'm in favor of this. I think it's exciting. The only thing I would be concerned about, I want a real kitchen with teaching kitchen and stuff, but I'm not sure why you need a glass wall or something, but that's something you can follow up on later.
Yeah, and it could be a sliding opening wall.
Yeah, well, that's okay. But I would think if you have an instructor and people watching, they may want to have questions going back and forth, and just having an open air or something is nice, but that's my own opinion. Thank you.
Well, the design's coming back to us anyhow, so we can make changes or whatever we want to do if they're going to give us some options, so.
But it gave me feedback for the architect when you talk to him. Now I can say, you know what, let's make this window open. And we still got to keep room one separate from the kitchen. So a sliding wall, something we can most definitely put in doors.
Okay. All right.
What kind of refrigerator, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Kelly?
What kind of refrigerator does it have there?
Same as the PV Fields True. Top of my head, True something.
Same size?
They're commercial.
A freezer on one side and a refrigerator on the other?
No, they're refrigerators. Both of those are
Oh, they're all refrigerators?
Yes.
How old are those?
They're pretty old. I'm going to say about maybe 10 years old. I'm thinking back, healthcare actually put one in there, I believe,
And-
back in the day.
And there is no freezer?
No.
Okay.
So obviously, if the architect, if we need a freezer, if the architect wants to recommend a freezer, that would be an option, of course, when they come back to us for a teaching kitchen or something.
Well, you'd have to have one if you're going to.
Well, I'm just saying.
And Director Kelly, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they're just both refrigerators.
No, it could be. but I'm just thinking they're 10 years old.
Yeah, Brandon worked there for 3 years. He knows it. They're refrigerators.
Neil?
No, I'm in favor of this. I'm ready to vote on it, so.
Okay, anybody else got any?
I'm in favor as long as we make sure that the appliances that get put in, I used to be an old appliance salesman, so I know my appliances. If we're going to use it as a teaching kitchen, we have to put good stuff in there or it'll fall apart in short order.
No, yeah, I'll make a proposal. If you want me to make a proposal, you want to wait? I'll make a proposal to approve and authorize the general manager to enter into a professional service agreement between the district and the firm for design, I can't pronounce their name. Lauterbach? Is that how you say that? Okay. And Associates, Architect Incorporated, for the design and construction plan documents for the community kitchen remodel.
I'll second.
Rich? Karen? Neil?
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Chair Magner?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob, I have one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you looking at timeline? Did I miss it?
No, I want to say there's 90 days in the contract. They have to get back to us
That's what I
within 90
thought.
days.
Okay, all right.
So we want to go back out to bid by, I want to put the RFP out by February, so we can get that going. I mean, that's my goal, February, March.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be rentable. Karen will, I mean, if we do a da-da, I think it will be rentable.
And we've upgraded the bathrooms there.
Right,
It's
yeah.
old design.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay. 8C, consideration and approval of request for proposed specifications for landscape maintenance of the Pleasant Valley Field Sports Complex. Is that you, Bob?
Yep.
Okay.
I just moved behind that camera. Okay. Good evening. Bob Sarsola again. Tonight, I'm coming to you to ask you to approve an RFP for Pleasant Valley Fields Sports Complex. As you know, this park was designed and built, and it opened in, well, it was built in 2009, opened in 2010. It's a 55-acre park. It serves a lot of the community. So, as you know, staff access and the expenses associated for staffing and equipment needed to maintain the complex. They analyzed the identified contractual landscape maintenance of the site would result in significant lower cost to the district. A little more background. Upon completion of the construction, the board approved the specifications for the Pleasant Valley Fields. The district received 6 qualified bids and during the RFP process. And those numbers over the years have gone up and down a little bit, mostly down. The district selected Valley Crest Landscape Maintenance based on experience, turf management, and familiarity with the site and the equipment. The original contract with the district was for 3 years. Valley Crest, we extended that in 2014 for another 2 years, or another 3 years, excuse me. So in 2017, the district solicited more bids to ensure a competitive landscape maintenance contract. Brightview, formerly Valley Crest, was a sole bidder on that job almost 3 years ago, and they were awarded the contract. We had another company come out, but they came in late. They were sick, so they came late, and it was mandatory job set at 10 o'clock, mandatory job walk, so they missed out. So during the proposal process, staff will evaluate the specifications for the landscape maintenance contract. It's determined that some specifications need to be amended to satisfy the current needs of the site. Process will open up for a competitive RFP process to allow potentially lower costs to the district. And here's some notable changes that we made so far. May see the turf aeration. We're doing it 8 times. We're pushing that to 11 and coring it a total of 3 times instead of 1 time. We want to open that ground up more. It needs it. So it'll get cored 3 times a year, and I have that in the contract during top of my head. It's 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. So it separates. And then the fertilization, you guys approved the fertilization tank that's going in. So that'll be a big plus on that job. The contractor will be in charge of that, ordering it and everything. If we're not satisfied, if it's not getting too green, we can kick it up. So we in a sense, we still have control, but they're paying for it. So they can't cheap out us, because on granular, we weren't seeing it going in and seeing that. But now it's in liquid form, we'll have a little more control
I'm sorry, how do you know that they're putting it in there?
by what they order.
Oh, they have to give you the order form?
Yeah.
And does the
Well,
truck show up at the
We'll still
site?
talk with the nutrients, who we get this chemical from.
So, but I'm just trying to understand, the amount of, you're not just pouring in 12 ounces of something. Obviously, it's a large mixing tank, as we know. And I'm assuming that the vendor who's supplying the liquid fertilizer or chemicals are going to show up in a tanker, little small tanker truck to do this themselves.
Right.
I mean, these guys don't go down with their pickup truck and pick it up and pour it in.
And nutrients will come out and they'll
Right.
set it up.
So you have a way to verify it because you'll have the invoice from those people bringing it there. So I'll make sure that everybody understands
We
how this
can
works.
ask for it and check what's going on.
Okay.
Again, and we're also asking for, I want 2 soil samples a year, so we know what exactly is in that dirt, which direction we need to go to. Do we need to add more calcium? Do we need to add more acid? It'll give us that analysis of what to do. So these are some of we added the softball fields. We broke it down to, it's about 26 times a month between months of March through November. So we've broken that down through history. We can tell what it is. And it'll give or take, so and they give a separate cost on that also. The restroom cleaning is already in there, so that's inclusive into it. So we're trying to get one set bid instead of, in the past, it's always been, like I said, with the softball fields. If we wanted more aeration, more fertilizer, they would charge us. So now, it's one set thing. And we have a little more control. Like I said, we have more control of what goes on. We like I said, past history with Lanny keeping track of the tournaments, or not tournaments, adult soccer, adult football, not football, adult softball. So that'll give us a little more knowledge on this. So it's a different direction than how we did, but we think in the end it'll be better. The old contract mentioned 365 days of trash emptying. We don't need that. So I eliminated that down to 200. So it's just little things that we went through and we read it. Brandon, Nick, Jessica, Mary, we've all tackled this thing and tackled it, and we come to a good place, I think. So. Anyways, back to my spiel. So the RFP will provide us an opportunity for the contractor to submit proposals for the Pleasant Valley Fields maintenance contract. We've got, I think I've written down 10 contractors, 2 golf course companies, maintenance that take care of maintenance, other various contractors that can handle that park. The mower situation, still the same. You got to leave it on site. It's not going anywhere. We have all that in there. So we have the bid package, which you guys have. They got to suppose that back if they're qualified to even bid on it, because we put that, you have to have so many years of government work. And the background, financial background, the references, equipment capacity, and the cost estimates. So we're not obligated to select the lowest bidder, but, it's up to you guys. The district shall contract at its best interest of the complex and the district. So approval of the RFP specifications has no fiscal impact this time. It's just anticipated that the contract will be awarded at the January 21st board meeting. During that time, there will be a fiscal impact.
Okay. Director Kelly? I see you turning pages, so go for it.
I had a whole notebook full of questions, but of course, as usual, I picked up my packet and left my notebook. But I do have what I worked off of, so it might take a little bit longer, but I have a number of questions. Maybe somebody else wants to go first?
Okay. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, first question I have is gophers. Did I misread, or is the word gopher in here anywhere? I mean, pest control, or did I miss it somehow?
It's in there.
I thought it was in here somewhere, but I just wanted to confirm that gopher, we've always had it in the past and everything else, that we're not
Not so many
losing.
gophers, rabbits.
Oh, rapids too then? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question is picking up loose trash. So let's say there's an organization out there, they got trash cans, of course. Parents go by, they dump their users go by and dump their trash in the trash can. The birds, seagulls come by, pick it up and spread it around. Who is responsible to pick up that trash? Is it going to be these guys, or our staff going to have to come by? If it's on, I understand that in the request for proposal, they're going to be emptying the trash can. That's very obvious, blah, blah, blah. But my question is, if they're driving down across the field and they see a bunch of trash, are they going to stop and pick it up? Or is that,
Yeah.
where does that fall?
Yes,
in this?
they'll pick it up. It's only when we have, over a weekend of a tournament, or we have a Saturday event where trash is everywhere. We can't get a cart through the people a lot of times where the trash cans are. So the trash cans might have to sit there until they drag them away a little bit. So it's a combination of both. The user group's got to be responsible for their people too. And then the rest, of course, we do it. And the birds, you're right, birds come out.
Well, I'm still trying, so in the request for proposal, I'm just trying to clarify, if it's normal everyday trash, they're going to be responsible.
So I think that there's probably a couple things.
I'm just trying to get the
No, I
clarification.
Totally understand. So right now, the way the contract works, or the way most of them work, is there's pretty much set hours. So the way this contract originally started way back when is their hours for typically from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., somewhere in there, 8-hour days. That was Monday through Friday. There was no original work on Saturdays and Sundays. That's the way the contract started. And then at some point, we had morphed into 7 days a week. So there's still only 8 hours in a day. That's all, that's what they're bidding. So if we want more hours, which happens on Saturdays and Sundays, then we're going to have to readjust this agreement somewhat so that happens. And I think that's probably where some of the stuff happens. So for instance, if I'm working from 7 to 4, they're cleaning up, but after 4 o'clock, there's nobody on site. So who's going to be responsible, if I'm hearing you, Director Mishler, who's responsible from 4 o'clock if there's a tournament or play, who's going to pick that stuff up from 4 until whenever? So that's the part that there's, if you want that in here, we would have to have them put a bid for separate hours.
That's not my actual.
Which would then pick up the trash during those hours, because right now, during that period of time, they will pick up the trash, but after those hours, they won't be picking up the trash, which means if people are leaving stuff out there from 4 until 7 p.m., I'm just using that as a rough estimate, then nobody's picking that up.
Well, the next day, someone will be showing up to work, and they can pick it up then, correct?
They could.
I'm just asking. Now, my next question is, tied into this, is the fact that with these new tanks, mixing tanks, I call them mixing tanks out there, for the irrigation, it's going to require, tell me if I'm wrong, but for these guys doing the work out there, it's going to require less time to manually drive around with the vehicle and physically spread fertilizer and do all that type, anti-weed and all those types of things. I mean, they have to bring in the chemicals, the liquid chemicals, to the 2 mixing tanks.
Right.
But they're not even doing that. I mean, the vendor is going to be supplying that. They should be having additional free time, if I'm not mistaken, because they'll have some spare time now because they're not doing the regular physical application of all these chemicals and stuff, correct?
Yes, but.
We should have a net gain of time.
But it depends how much we want to spend.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, right now, if we didn't say anything else, they should have a little extra free time.
If that is the expectation right now, I think that's part of the RFP, is putting those things in the RFP. So when we get this back, they're accounting for that amount of time. So right now, with the agreement that we have with Brightview, if we said now today, just using an example, now today we are putting the mixing tanks in so you don't have to do that, we would see a net, you're right, we would see a net time for that. if it's in the RFP, they should be accounting for that time when they put in the RFP that they're not going to have to go out and spray. Now, they may not get it away from entirely not doing spot spraying, so I want to be careful with that because there probably still some of that.
Yeah, I'm not-
But a majority of that, I would agree with you.
Your standard, I'm just talking about basic standard operation. There's always going to be spot work. And
Absolutely.
everything. I'm not complaining about that.
Correct.
But again, I'm trying to understand how this contract works. Do they have to have someone on site for that 8 hours?
Yes.
Okay, so if they have nothing else to do, they can obviously walk around and pick up trash if they had time to do it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand that. And, okay,
So, right, so that's the point of putting this out, is so when they bid this, when we get the bids back, they understand what that scope of work looks like. And their requirement is to meet that scope of.
oh, no, I'm just trying to understand, I'm just clarifying what's in and what's out and how all that works.
Understood.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Director Dixon?
Yeah, just looking under the items under the current contract as compared to the new requirements, I'm going to ask you to, so previously, they're doing coring, aeration eight times a year?
They cored once a year.
Once a
and
year.
And they sliced it 8.
Okay, so what does the 8 times mean?
Eight times, once a month, basically. They were they did it 10 times out of the year. So once a month, they'd go through it's a machine that has knives on it that just rips into the grass. It just opens the soil up.
Okay, that's the same concept as the coring, it's just a different technique of doing the same
Coring
thing.
just takes out the plugs and, yes. And then
Right,
you
but the
can-
purpose is the same thing, just,
It just way to design.
But actually more my question is, it says under current contract, sports turf 8 times,
No, there's, right.
8 times with, or 8X with coring times. So does that mean, what does the 8X mean?
8 times a year.
8 times a year, okay, that's, okay. So with the new one, you're basically replacing a lot of that with this other technique of the slicing.
The coring, the consultant recommends more coring. So it's the method we're going more towards now. You don't have to do it all the way, but at least to get in there 3 times, he said.
Okay, and with the, I think you the same subject, I think most of this question was answered, but just to clarify for me that the fertigation unit that we install is actually, the chemicals are brought to us by a contracted company.
Yes, sir.
And now, that system obviously needs some level of maintenance. Now,
They will come out.
Whose responsibility will that be?
I'm not, Brandon might know this one, but they'll come out probably once a month or once every 2 months, to fill it. Once we figure out how much it's going to use per month.
They'll come out if we needed it.
We can hear you, but other people may not.
Yeah.
As far as the fertigation goes, Nutrien will come out and they will help us calibrate it. That'll be part of the soil analysis. So when we get those analysis in, they can come in and they can adjust our meters. There is light levels of maintenance to the pumps. They're very minimal. They recommend replacing a diaphragm on each pump about once a year. Again, it just depends on use. But there's not a whole lot of parts inside of those pumps to maintain.
Okay, so all of that stuff is really outside of this RFP. All that is going to be done by our staff working with the vendor for the fertigation
Correct.
machines.
The maintenance will be done by us once a year or as needed, and then anytime that there's calibration to the equipment, we can call out Nutrien, which is the fertilizer supplier.
Okay, and then as Director Mishler is asking about my understanding when we first talked about putting this unit in was that this was not all of the fertilization chemicals that go on the grass that may cut down the necessity of applying topical, but we still need to do that on occasion.
They might have to put down a different weed killer. There's 2 locations for the tanks. We had a 500-gallon fertilized tank, and then we'll probably have there will be 500 tanks, so we can put in a pre-emergent. Pre-emergent is one, and they'll keep the weeds from coming up, and then that's their job. We could put a weed killer in there, but we don't want to do that because it'll kill the plants in the flower beds and all. So
Okay.
there's certain things they'll still have to spray, and there's things that they won't. If we need a different kind of chemical, we can add that to that tank. So the one tank's going to be always going. The other one's a backup for if something else we need to add. So it's easier to install it now, and then it's there when we need it. Because more than likely we'll be using it regularly.
And my last question, there's a lot of questions about trash, and it's been brought up that I think this has come about because there's been some conflict about when tournaments and events go on, and the entity putting the tournament or event on says that they picked up all the trash, and you guys go out and look and there's trash on the ground, and so the question is did birds pick it up and throw it all over the place, or did people throw it all over the place? And I'm just wondering whether maybe we ought to be looking at some sort of trash cans that have covers on them that would prevent birds from getting in there and throw it.
If there's trash on the ground by the trash cans, we can blame it on the birds more than likely.
Uh-huh.
But if it's strewn out the 55 acres, that's not from birds.
Yeah.
I've been in parks all the time. The baseball fields, it stays where it's at, or the dumpsters. And truthfully, we don't have a lot of seagulls out at PB fields. We got those other little birds with long beaks. I mean, I've been walking the field the last 3 days, and they're out there.
But what about some sort of trash cans that either have a top on them or putting trash cans under some sort of
We can look
covering
into that most definitely. Past history, they don't get used. They get thrown on the ground. People don't want to touch them. Just past history, we've been out here for 24 years, though.
Okay. But if they were placed under some sort of covering that a bird would be less likely to fly under, actually rather than actually a top on top.
The trash cans we're talking about are the ones in the field. So we can't really cover them out there.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Director Malloy?
Well, as you know, I have my name on the documents to pay to build this place, so I've been involved in this project literally from the very beginning.
Yep.
And I really like the way you guys have stayed on this to keep it the great place that it is.
Thank you.
And it shows in the tweaks in the contract here. The slicing sort of coring essentially cuts the runners, and it helps cut the thatch down. So it does a really different thing than the core aeration does, which is to reduce the compaction of the soil by relieving the space. So they're really different sort of needs. And we have an amazing park there that everybody really enjoys walking on and looking at and certainly playing on. And when I think back to my days as a referee where I'd have to stop the game because we had so many gophers popping out holes.
Freedom Park.
And at Freedom. And, now the thing that we have is so much safer and so much better for play. It's really terrific. And the fertigation thing definitely should have some labor savings. But, I have a lot of experience with pre-emergence, not all of them good. So, it has a lot to do with how the weather went, and,
right.
Sometimes the best laid plans just don't work, and the only thing you can do is kill them after they've spread. But this looks really good. Now, as you know, from last time we did this, I was not pleased that we only had one bidder. And
yes, sir.
I know that I've been talking to Jessica, and I've been sort of interviewing golf companies to get interested in bidding this project, because they're really good at this too. This is what they do, high level turf maintenance. So, and I'm glad to hear that you got a large field that's involved, because to get the best possible deal for the community, that it takes a lot of people. And there's a lot of companies that would like to have a beautiful project like this as something to be able to point to and say, this is what we do. So I'm hoping that'll help us come through. Obviously, the increasing costs of all the materials, the increasing costs of labor, increasing costs of health insurance and all that for employees, that's inescapable, and the number's going to go up. But you've done what you can to keep the product nice and make it more cost effective. So I thank you guys.
It has its challenges.
Yeah.
We're going through some right now, but we'll get it.
That's all I have.
Director Kelly?
Okay. I have some preliminary questions I'd like to ask first. How are the chemicals going to be brought to the site?
In a truck.
I know that. I mean, how are they going to get to the location where they're going to be dumped into the vats that
They have a hose.
Director Mishler was referring to?
There'll be a pump truck that'll come up to each site. Each tank has a fitting on top of the tank that they will hook a hose to, and it'll pump directly.
That's okay. I'm sorry, Brandon. My question is, are we going to have some big truck driving on our fields?
No, they're accessible from each cul-de-sac.
Okay. Then I don't need anything further on that. In the terms, Bob, there's mention on page 139 of 243, number N, of a 72-inch reel mower.
Right.
Okay, what is that mower going to be used for?
The sports turf.
The actual turf?
Yes.
Because I noticed someplace else in the agreement, it mentions a reel mower for the non-turf.
Yes.
But it doesn't say anything about the sports turf.
It could be in the, I believe I have it in there somewhere. I'll double check.
I didn't see it, but it's in this, I had my notes and I would have been able to give it to you, but I don't have them with me now. So it's in that on that same page where it talks about the non-sports turf needing a reel mower, because that grass, of course, needs a reel mower, right?
Yes.
Okay, and is there a, I didn't see it in the terms, a requirement of a particular brand of reel mower?
No.
So
No.
somebody could buy a Jippo style mower and meet the terms of the agreement, right?
They have an equipment list they have to provide to us, and if we're not happy with that list, we can always come back to them, if they're in the running. But most people will either use the Toros or the John Deere.
Or True Cut. True Cut is considered one of the best.
They are, but you don't really see them out here too much, that big of a mower.
Okay, and the reason for that is otherwise the blades get dull really fast because the steel isn't treated the way that some of the better brands are treated.
Yeah, it'll die down.
So we'll make sure that they have the proper equipment and they understand that this isn't something we say now and nobody ever checks on later, right?
Correct.
The chemicals that we are now putting, this is a little bit off subject, but the chemicals we're going to put on the surface out there, Brandon, are those I'm assuming this is done, but I don't know that it's done. Are the chemicals going to be matched to the soil analysis?
Yes.
Okay, so the fact that we've had 8 feet of topsoil scraped off of it and we're down to clay, that's being taken into consideration because we've done an analysis and they've come up with a formula to make sure that it works for us, right?
Yes, that's why it's in there. They do it twice a year, soil samples, so we can see what's in it, exactly what we need to offset the reclaimed water, the clay, the salts. So that's why it is in there now.
That hasn't been in there in the past, which is why it's now in there, and we've asked, they'll have to bid it out, so it's twice a year.
Well, I noticed how comprehensive the terms are here, but there may be a little tweaking that they need. Who presently checks the sprinkler coverage right now?
Brightview does.
Okay, does anybody ever check to make sure they do it?
Yes. Yes, we've been walking, Brandon's been walking that park every week, once a week, unless he was on vacation or off.
Well, I've noticed some areas out there where it's green around the sprinkler head and not green further out.
We've been addressing that issue.
All right. Okay, the tractors and so forth. When we first opened Pleasant Valley Fields, I went out there and was horrified to see tractors hauling maybe PTO powered, what do you call them, spreaders or aerators and things like that. And they would have these big, like farm-style tractor tires on them. And they were making like all these imprints in the turf. We're not going to have that, are we? They're going to understand that they have to have sports field turf tires on their equipment.
Yes.
Okay. I noticed in section, I'm doing a lot of this from memory, 318, additional services, and then right after that, it is special requirements and then deficiencies, and I'm referring specifically to page 141.
Thank you.
Are you at the top or the bottom?
It's like around D. It's what's not there, actually, that the question's about. Is that I noticed that there isn't any fine for using non-dedicated equipment.
No, they're out of order. Sorry, sir.
That there's no fine for using non-dedicated equipment. In other words, the contractor, his tractor breaks down, it's an expensive repair, so he waits 2 months before he does it and brings something in from some other site. And according to this agreement, there's nothing in there that would protect us against that type of conduct. A lot of the contractors, somebody mentioned earlier, it's government work, so they don't have to be as vigilant at following the rules as they might in a private party situation.
If we do have a mower go down, they're obligated to mow 108 times a year, unless it's in a bad weather. So, but it's in a contract, they mow 108 times a year.
But that's not my question. My question is bringing in some mower from someplace
What I'm
else.
saying, again, they can't bring another mower in, but on B on 141, if they don't comply with the minimum district defined manpower, so manpower, well, I guess that equipment, wouldn't call that, but we have equipment failure right below it on C. So maybe deduct $250 per day on number C.
But you also have in the contract, or the request for proposal, that all equipment being brought to the site has to have your approval.
Correct.
Yes.
Ahead of time. So that will cover your issue.
But there's no fine for not doing it, is
Well,
what
we
I'm
could-
getting at.
So one of the things, and we can address some of that. So with this particular, I think what you're looking at as well, and we can actually put that in there, because this is a draft contract.
Yes.
So, and we put a draft contract, so that way they understand what this looks like, so we don't, they don't bid on this project and can't fulfill a lot of the stuff that we're looking for. So one of the key things to address maybe two of those issues is we can actually go back and put something in there regarding the dedicated equipment, and if it breaks down, what that means. So we can look at that. The second thing that we've tightened up, that if you've noticed in here, is we will require a monthly update. And if we don't get a monthly update from them, they won't get paid until that monthly update. So that's one of the things, just to make sure that we are following through, both sides are following through with what is getting done. So those are a couple of things that we've tightened up in this contract, but we can add something about the, if equipment breaks down.
Sure. And for the members of the public who are listening in or watching, the reason that this is important is when other mowers and so forth are brought in, they bring the weeds from other places and creates more maintenance for us and unsightliness and just more work in general. And this district, through its staff, board of directors, have made sure that this place has stayed pristine, and there's no other place I know of in the country that looks the way that this one looks now, 10 years after it was first opened. It just doesn't happen, and that's through a lot of dedicated work that people have done. But that doesn't mean everybody's perfect or we do everything perfect, and so we have to be vigilant to make sure that we keep that standard up. Okay, 3.7. Insecticide specifications.
What page, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, 134.
Okay.
One of the problems we have out there from time to time are wasps that show up and get in the valve boxes. I'm sure you've dealt with them before. And masses of bees. The other night I was out there, and all of a sudden I saw all the kids hit the ground. And I said, what is that? And there were this huge swarm of bees or whatever flying about 3 feet off the ground in a big, huge swarm. And I know that over the last 10 years, I've seen that situation on a number of occasions. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, to tell you the truth. However, it's not covered in the agreement here. So who are we going to be responsible, or are they going to be? They're mostly responsible for things that tear up the turf.
Right, right. So
is that going to be on us?
I'd say it'd be yes. I mean, you know, I've gotten 2 phone calls lately on 2 other parks.
Oh, the same thing?
So, you know, it's something we have to go out there and we call a beekeeper out because we don't want to kill them. So we call a beekeeper.
Yeah, of course not.
And move them. So relocate them.
Okay, so that even though it's in the valve box, usually where these nests are,
Yep.
that's going to be on our ticket.
Yes.
Okay. This is just a point of inquiry. 133 I'm sorry, Q.
What page?
133. Why is the word PTO in there?
It's a better driven. It forces that tool to rotate and do its job. Where if you just drive with a knife per se, it doesn't really do as good. It doesn't have that power to push it.
You're talking about penetration.
Yes.
So this allows better penetration into the soil.
Yeah. The PTO allows more power, more penetration into the soil.
Because you're coming directly from the transmission of the vehicle.
Right. Right.
Okay. S, same page. At the bottom. I noticed that weeds are not covered there, which is our biggest problem.
Weeds are in another area of this. Weeds are on page 135. Disease control. We have a program for POA. Horseweed, crabgrass, fungus, root fungus.
Under the terms of this agreement, who's going to be responsible for all those weeds that grow in the swale area?
They are, contractor.
Okay, because nobody's doing it now.
Okay, make note of
that. M on the same page. Alternating mow pattern is necessary to reduce tracking. Is that a suggestion or a requirement?
Requirement.
Okay, because it sounds like a suggestion in the terms.
Okay.
Can I do an add-on?
Just a minute, look at them.
I'm almost done.
Bob, I take that back on the WASP. It's on 134. I don't remember seeing it when I did this. 134, C, wasp and hornet control.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Wasp and hornet control on page 134. It is actually in there. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Where is it?
On 134,
Halfway down.
3.6, C.
So they're responsible for it?
Yep.
I didn't see that. Okay, that's great. You got me on that one.
I got myself to.
That's all I have for right now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Bob. I just want to make a comment for everybody who may be watching this about, we're talking about PV fields and all the soil and stuff. For people who were not here back in 2008 through 2010, the history of this is background information, it's important to know. The city, even though the site was dedicated to be transferred to our Rec and Park District, the city had control of it. And the city also controlled all the grading and everything being done out there. And then after they did all the grading and everything else, then it was transferred over to Rec and Park for us to go ahead and complete and build this. What people maybe, or when I've talked to people, some people are very confused. We do not, it's important to understand, we do not have native soil at Pleasant Valley Fields. Pleasant Valley Fields, this whole area, the farmland and everything, we have in ag soils go from class 1 through class 10. Class 1 is the highest, class 10 is the worst. Most of the soils around Camarillo are 1 and 2, sometimes 3. So we have very excellent soils. People often believe that the soil out there is this class 1 or 2, top of the line. What happened during construction, when the city had control of this property, the construction developer people stripped all the topsoil. They went down almost 20 feet out. Some places went down 15, 20 feet. They took all that topsoil out and used it for all the housing construction. There was a big hole in the ground. When the city had to fill that back up and bring it back up to grade before handing it over to us, they just went out and they took the cheapest bid, and we have about 15, 20 feet of dirt that was in rock that was hauled down here from Thousand Oaks. Thousand Oaks does not have any soil, basically. It's just raw dirt and rock that was brought in there and dumped and compacted. So the grass that we have growing out there has essentially almost no native soil. And we laid down sod. So the soil started off with a ½ inch of soil out there on top of this dirt and rock. So a lot of the problems that we have in trying to keep this thing and keep the grass up and going is because it's hard for the grass roots to go down into the rock and the bad dirt down there. So part of the process is we're trying to put chemicals to try to help convert the dirt to soil. But this takes many, many, many years, and we're making some headway on it. But that's one of the big problems we have out there, that a lot of the people are confused and they think, oh my gosh, why can't we use this? That grass out there is still good today, like Bob said, 10 years later. But it's only because you have to give it time to rest and recover. If you go up to Wood Creek Park next to Terra Linda School up there by Mission Oaks, that is native soil with anything that grows that's green. When it rains up there, that water disappears. That water just rains and just disappears into the ground in a matter of a half hour, an hour later. You can't even tell it rained. And it soaks right in, and those roots go way down deep. It's almost impossible to hurt the grass out there at Wood Creek Park because that is native soil. We do not have those conditions out here at Pleasant Valley Fields. A lot of people are confused, and it's almost impossible to damage Wood Creek Park. But out here, because we don't have native soils, we have to be very careful. I just want to provide that as background, and that's part of the cost estimates here, is because it's hard for that water to soak in, and we have all those special conditions we're trying to address. Thank you.
For doing that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Director Malloy, you have anything else?
No, we've talked plenty about
Okay.
maintenance of
Director Dixon?
PV fields.
Nope.
Okay. Director Kelly?
None.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to Mr. Roberts. You'll have a few minutes. If you've got any comments to make regarding this?
Yes, Thank you. I was just would like to know. I saw that the increase to the maintenance contract is anticipated, or will be, $30,000 over the next couple of years. And I was curious, has the district analyzed or done studies to determine whether or not the district is capable internally of providing the maintenance of Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park fields over there at the Village at the Park? That's my first question.
Mary? So when this contract first went out, there was a long analysis, and Bob, you might have more information regarding this. But in order for us to be able to do this, the amount of equipment that we would have to purchase, as well as the staffing costs and all of those other things that would entail, would cost us more than if we went out to an RFP. So I don't, Bob.
And is that even including the increase of $30,000 over the last 2 to 3 years? And then on top of that, I was looking at the contracts, and with regards to costs as far as hourly wages or for the employees, it looks reasonably similar. The range from, I believe, is $17 to $30 an hour was the estimate on the hourly wage for folks. That looks reasonably similar, including roll-ups of district maintenance staff from what I could see. So is there an actual analysis that's been done, or has the district done a study that would compare the cost to just ensure that we're essentially getting better value out of going to a contractor versus handling within the district?
Understood. I can tell you that one of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but I believe one of the motors or one of the mowers alone is well over $100,000 just for the mower.
Just for the big one.
So that would just be one piece, that's one piece of equipment alone that we would have to purchase. And that doesn't include any of the manpower or any other pieces of equipment. And typically, Bob, right now, how many pieces of equipment do they have out there?
They probably have 6, 7 pieces. And those mowers, those blades got to be sharpened at least once a month. You can't just keep mowing with them, because that grass has to be cut to 5/8 of an inch. So you've always got to sharpen the blades. And that's an added expense. There's the manpower, the gas, the equipment. It was when they went through this report and they did that, they researched it all.
Do you remember how much extra it would have cost our staff to do this?
I don't. I wasn't involved with it. I was here, but I wasn't involved with the landscape end of it. I was in the facilities.
Do you remember, Mark? You were here. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
How much extra would have cost staff to do this?
The contracted was about 1/3 of the cost of in-house staff.
So to do it in-house would cost almost twice as much or 3 times as much.
Well, in-house, it's so much more complicated than just, the hourly rate. And of course, the hourly rate that we pay our employees is substantially higher than the contract maintenance people use. And the contracts maintenance people don't have their employees in CalPERS retirement. They don't have the benefits that our employees had. And that all, as we know, that costs a lot of money. Employees are a major part of our expense. But Daryl did look at it. We actually I remember getting a lease quote on the lawnmower, and we actually ran the numbers, and it wasn't even close. And we've done this a number of times. When the next item on the agenda is another one of these maintenance contracts, and the savings of doing contract maintenance is very substantial versus staff maintenance, because you have trucks, to get people to and from. I mean, I don't need to explain to you guys. You deal with this stuff all the time, but the number I remember was 1/3 the cost.
We have 2 smaller mowers we use for Freedom Fields. Last month, we had a gearbox go out. It was around $800-900, plus installation and our guy to do it. Yesterday, I talked to Mary. I'll be spending about $2,000-1,500 for the other gearbox, drive shaft. It's those added costs that we don't see that we'll come get them, which people don't realize.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I understand capital expenditures and maintenance and all of that. I'd like to know when the last study was actually done, because it doesn't seem like, you guys can recall when the last one was, and that's fine, but I just want to know when the actual last study was, and if it makes sense now, because if the contractor is increasing their cost by $30,000 over the last couple of years, then it might be worth revisiting and doing an actual study on. So when was the last study actually done?
Probably 2010, 12.
So it's about almost a decade ago, possibly.
We'd probably have to get back
Okay.
on that. I don't have an exact.
That's fine. That's okay. We can follow up on that. One of the things that was mentioned while discussing the item was about whether the contractors would pick up trash at tournaments, and I just want to state that as a taxpaying citizen and as a resident, I don't think that I'd like to see us spend any additional cost in the contract for our contract to maintain the Pleasant Valley Fields to pick up that trash, because those tournaments are largely they're held by our district, or they're held by CSOs, and our community participates in them, but to a large extent they're out of town folks, and I've participated in those before because we've gone to other cities for tournaments as well, and we pay fees. So I just want to make sure that we're not basically bearing the cost of these tournaments coming to host on our fields any more than is necessary. I'd like to see the cost of cleaning up the trash generated by the tournament handled by those either the CSOs or the agencies that hold the tournaments, or the volunteers who participate in the tournaments. I'd like to see the cost for cleanup of their trash borne by them, not necessarily by the citizens of Camarillo, who are subsidizing these organizations to come in, because I don't want to spend an extra amount of money in order for them to come to our city, utilize our fields, and then leave a bunch of trash all over the field for us to clean up. So I just want to make sure that whatever contract is generated or whatever contract is signed, we're not bearing additional costs due to folks who are coming in from outside the city utilizing our fields. So that's a statement. And then on top of that, with regards, I know I might not have time for this from earlier, but I fully support the staff's recommendation for Santa driving around. I live in Torrance, and in Torrance, the Torrance Police Department and the City of Torrance drove around doing Santa, and it was magical for my young daughter. And everyone in the community loved it, so I fully support moving forward with the staff plan for Santa that they've come up with the city. And that's all I have to say with item 8C. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the request for proposal specifications for the maintenance of Pleasant Valley Fields Sport Complex landscaping.
Second.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Chair Magner?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
We will move on to 8D, consideration and approval to extend the landscape maintenance service contract between the district and Natural Green Landscape Incorporated. Nick?
Good evening, Chair Magner, members of the board, Nick Marienthal, Park Supervisor, and tonight I am here to ask for a 2-year extension with Natural Green Landscape. So currently the district has a maintenance contract that requires a contractor to maintain trees, turf, trash, and clean our walkways, mow, blow. This service is provided Monday through Friday at 25 of our sites, and this contractor, is also takes care of all of our herbicide throughout those parks. District's been utilizing contracts since 2008. We've been with Natural Green going on 3 years here, coming up real quick. And this current contract allows for two-year extensions, and we are trying to exercise one of those extensions tonight. By utilizing contract services, it has allowed district to do some of our bigger projects, some which have been the Springville Dog Park renovation, Charter Oak Windrow irrigation, the community center marquee, which was just completed, which staff did an excellent job on, the interior and exterior restrooms at the community center, and the latest PV field fertilizer injectors, which we were just speaking of. So we've worked really well with Natural Green. They've actually have a landscape department as well, so it's helped us to utilize some other assets with that company. They've helped us out during the fires and done some other stuff for us. They maintain their professionalism. Their equipment is always in top-notch condition, and again, it reflects in a positive fashion for the district. So here's a breakdown. They are asking for a 2% increase going into these next 2 years. Currently, we're at $188,376. Next year, it would go to $192,143, which would be a difference of $3,767. Going on to the second year, we'd move up to $195,985. And that would be a difference of $3,842. So a total of $7,609 for the next 2 years. So right now we just started the 2021 budget, so we have an over expenditure right now in Fund 6720 of $7,046. So with the added cost, we would need to make a revenue change of $1,252 out of Fund 672. And it is recommended that the board approve the extension for the landscape maintenance service between the district and Natural Green Landscape. There is some alternative options that the board may choose to take. One of them would be having staff initiate a RFP and go and see if Natural Green would be willing to continue their contract for month-to-month basis until we finalize it. We could also initiate staff to maintain all the parks. Again, we were kind of just on this topic. This would require us to invest in quite a bit of equipment and definitely more manpower. And the last one would be allow the RFP to expire and then go back out to bid. So with that, is there any questions?
Director Kelly?
None.
Director Mull?
I thought I read in here that you talked or you did a rough survey with what current prices are and stuff. Did you want to, I thought I read that in our handout, but you didn't cover it here.
Not on this one.
Oh, not on this one? Okay. So you don't have, I'm just curious I'm just curious what's going on with other organizations, the city or somebody else, what they're doing. Okay, I'm just wondering, thanks.
Director Dixon?
Is there any reason for you to think that if we went out for an RFP that we would end up better off than where we are? Or?
You know, it's really hard to tell. It's hard to say. They came in really low, and they are only asking for 2%. If you remember last time we went out to bid with an RFP, it was all 5%, 7% each year. Mm-hmm. I think what they're asking for is fair, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, it's, you can't always put a price on the quality of work. They go above and beyond. We've had a few issues with them in the very beginning. We worked through the kinks. Now it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, something breaks down, they're calling me right away. Hey, this is our plan. This is our next step. They're seeing wet spots. They're calling us. They're seeing graffiti. They're calling us. I mean, we have a great working relationship with them.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Director Malloy?
Yeah, certainly 2% is unexpectedly low, given the cost of everything. And I mean, look at what our costs are doing, to operate under this time. And sometimes fixing things that's not broken doesn't make much sense. If there's a substantial incentive, I'd be happy to spend your time to figure it out, but it doesn't appear to me that that's at all likely. And that they're doing a good job, and to be rewarded with another 2 years makes sense to me. So,
I would be concerned if we would go back out with an RFP, because they may just decide the opposite and come back in much higher. And as I recall, they were much lower than everybody else was.
Correct.
The last time.
They were.
And I'm not sure that
And I believe our biggest, I think we, if I'm not mistaken, we had in our previous RFP 3 years ago, we had, again, 7%. Each year was 7%.
Oh, yes, yes.
8%. So by far, and again, their quality of work speaks for itself.
Well, I remember one, I think, had double digits, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, as I remember, they were very good, and I know we had kinks with them to begin with, but, everything I've heard since is, it's been really well, so. Any of the other directors have any other comments? Okay. Mr. Roberts, you've got 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Okay, here we go. I was going to say, has the district done any analysis on how much this would cost for the district to provide services for? And if so, when was the last time they did that study? Should I keep going with my questions, or am I going to? Is your answer going to cut into my time?
Go ahead with your questions, and then we'll respond.
Okay, great. So basically, when was the last study done on when the district would, or if the district would be able to provide the services, how much it'd be? 2, we're going through a financial crisis right now from COVID, and I would imagine that things would be very competitive and people would be willing to make competitive bids if it went out for a request for a proposal. I understand that staying with someone who works well with the district and who's provided good service in the past is also a very good move as well, but I think due consideration should be given to the current situation where people might be willing to meet or go below the current amount that we pay. I also read that the change in contract with this would mean that excess funds would only be $1,252 for the district. So would changing the contract or extending the contract be worth only having $1,200 in reserves for the district? And then in addition to that, I wanted to ask, I missed out on the warming kitchen or the warming stove versus a normal stove, and I was picking up my daughter, so if someone could just mention the difference to me for that previous item, I'd appreciate it, or email me further with an explanation of that. Thank you.
Okay. Couple things. I'll get back to you, one on the warming, since that item is done, but I can get back to you on that. So there's probably a couple of things. When we initially went out, there was an analysis done. Before we went back out to this, we did some rough analysis, what it would cost us to have mowers, more staff, and other equipment that was attached to this. So there was a rough estimate about 3 years ago, right before we went out to do this. It wasn't a full analysis, but when we started looking at it, we did at least a preliminary look, and it would have cost us more. We also have to remember that a couple things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years is we've had prevailing wage that has now come into this. So even having prevailing wage and only going up each year by about 2,000. So I think there is, just to make sure, the fiscal impact, need to probably backtrack on that. So at this time in the assessment district, we had an excess revenue of $7,046. So with the change in the contract for this fiscal year, that means that we would need to reallocate $1,252 to that line item, which still gives us change in revenue over expenses. We'd still have $57.94 in excess in that. So I think there was a little confusion. So just to straighten that out, Mr. Roberts, it's still a $57.94 based on this information. So I think I hit those. Yep. I think I hit the 2, and then, like I said, I'll get back to you regarding the warming kitchen on the other item.
Okay, all right. Ms. Director.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay, well, let me just, you also mentioned, and thank you for the questions, you also mentioned the COVID issue with maybe being lower costs right now and stuff. My next door neighbor is a professional landscaper. He's been in the business, almost 30 years. And he is more busy now than ever with the COVID issue going on, pandemic. Everybody's at home. Everybody wants something done. They're all trying to fix up their houses. They're all trying to build swimming pools. They're all wanting this work and that work. He is completely swamped. He has at least 2 orders for putting in proposals to build swimming pools every single week. He is completely swamped under. He's trying to hire people. He can't find people to hire. He's stacked up. So I'm just saying with the COVID, some businesses are completely been hit hard in retail or whatever, and they're going way down. But on the landscape side of the business, that business just shot through the roof. And the prices are going up through the roof. They're not going down. I just want to say that's from my experience on that. Thank you.
All right, okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that the board approve the extension of the landscape maintenance services contract between the district and Natural Green Landscape.
For 2 years?
For 2 years.
2 years? Okay. Mike?
I'll second.
Karen, please?
Director Malloy.
Aye.
Thank you.
Director Mishler.
Aye.
Director Kelly. Director Dixon.
Aye.
Chair Magner.
Aye. Okay. That'll take care of that. We'll move on to 9. I don't have a chair report tonight. I'm going to go direct because I've got to, I want to cover some other things under the California Special Districts Association. And I don't know if Mary's going to do the ledge report now or she'll do it later. But I'm going to have her, as I'm talking, oh, she's pulled it up already. Okay. All right. Can you go to page 2 first? I'm going to go backwards. I think if you've been with us in the past, I think you've heard me talk, and I think all of the directors and staff talk about CSDA, which is the acronym for California Special Districts Association. It's a statewide association that was formed in 1969 to promote good governance and improve core local services through professional development, advocacy, and other services of all types of independent special districts. Since then, CSDA has offered its members cost-efficient programs and representation at the state capitol, and boosts the membership of, I think last year was probably close to almost 1,300 organizations from throughout the state. They're a statewide association representing all types of independent special districts, including irrigation, water, parks and recreation, cemeteries, fire, police protection, library, utility, labor, health care, and community service districts, just to name a few. They provide education and training, insurance programs, legal advice, industry-wide litigation, and public relations support, legislative advocacy, capital improvement, and equipment funding, collateral design services, and most importantly, current information that is crucial to the special district's management and operational effectiveness. So that'll give everybody an idea of what California Special Districts is all about. Every year, well, first of all, I've had the pleasure of serving on that board for 5 years now. I serve on the executive membership or executive committee, and I think in my mind they serve 2 really important areas when it comes to Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, and that would be the advocacy during the legislative cycle. This year they reviewed over 5,400 bills that were in the State Assembly and Senate. They actively tracked 1,456, and they directly lobbied for 252. They stopped two bills that would have been extremely costly to us in both time and money, SB 931 and AB 2093. They supported 130 bills. Of those, 32 were passed into law. 5 were amended to remove our support, and then 75 of them failed to pass. Now, keep in mind, the ones that I'm going to say failed to pass, in the state of California, they can be 2-year bills and they can come back up. They opposed 122 bills. 15 of them were actually signed into law. They removed the opposition because of amendments to 26 of them, and 65 failed to pass. So their advocacy accomplishments are just above reproach in my mind. This year, they represent, another area that they do is they represent districts in the courts. They actively tracked 15 cases in the state and federal appellate courts involving legal issues with an impact on special districts. They do filings of friend of the court briefs in cases of cases of interest with us. So you can see that they are very, very important when it comes to what we do. The other area that they do is they provide training and professional development, which is extremely important to keep us working within the guidelines of the many laws of California. So I think, I'm looking for the numbers here, but I think they probably did close to 4,500 people were trained in seminars, and even with COVID, the webinars and everything continued. We went virtual this year with the legislative days, where we actually go up and meet with the legislative people at the Capitol, and we were able to accomplish that with 220 people, which went extremely well, even better than any of us had expected. And I think one of the nice things for next year, that being a member, is that all of the webinars are going to be free for CSDA members. So Director Malloy and I have talked about this from time to time. So they are going to make all of their webinars free of charge to all of the members. So there's just a lot of benefits there, a lot of value-added items. So that's what I'd like to share with everybody. It's a great organization, and they do a lot of work. The COVID, I'm going to have Mary go to the COVID response really quick. They, back 3 years ago, they do really strong strategic planning. And 3 years ago, the staff came to the board and they asked us to get involved with a national special districts coalition. And the board kind of drug their feet, and they did it in steps. And so the staff started going to other state meetings in other states. And right now, we are work very, very closely with 7 or 8 other states, Indiana, Illinois, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, or just to name a few. But during COVID, our employees activated and led the coalition in coordinating the introduction of 2 special district-specific federal bills to provide districts with relief funding. And we were completely left out of the first 2 bills. And so there are bills both in the House and in the Senate that have bipartisan support right now. So they're working their way to move through the House and the Senate. So this should maybe help us. We'll hopefully maybe get some money from this. And they have provided, I think, webinars and everything on COVID on weekly basis and things, and they've really stayed on top of it, especially when it's come to the legal parts of it. So once again, they're worth their they're worth a lot. Let's just say it that way. Okay. The other report I'm going to give is on the Ventura County Special Districts Association, which is a chapter of the California Special Districts Association, and it's the local organization. We met last night via Zoom and had a very interesting guest speaker, Marianne Rooney, who is commissioner for the Port Hueneme. And her topic was delivering cargo in the year of the crisis. And I thought 2 of the other directors and Mary and I attended via Zoom, and just to know what they do and how they have kept going at, 128% or something of what they usually go through, and not laying people off or anything, and being very fluid in the business they do, with the automobiles production going down and things that Marianne just provided us with a really good information. So it's a great place. If a lot of people don't even know anything about it, and I think her little speech last night just helped remind us of everything. So we meet with them twice a month, every 2 months, and it was well worth our time. Okay, I will go on down to 9C, Ventura County Consolidated Oversight Board. Mike, was a meeting?
Yes, we actually had the first meeting here since the pandemic. It was a short little meeting. We were basically dealing with an issue Oxnard City has, a local issue out there. They're behind, again, on money for one of their projects and stuff, and we had to deal with that. And we're gearing up this next month to review all the cities with their redevelopment funding in terms of their progress and status and stuff. So the next meeting coming up will be a very large one, overviewing all the different cities every year.
Okay, thank you. D, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy.
Yes, we met, and it was basically the same theme as the previous meeting in that they're short of money, they're having budget, they're really having to tighten their budget, and everything evolves around their funding and budgets. Their funding has been largely reduced this year from the state. It's a state agency, just for people to know. And their funds from the state have been cut way back. And one of their other sources from the state is having, movies or weddings and stuff and activities, like, coming to their events and having to use their services. Well, a lot of their places have been shut down with COVID, so they have almost none of that money coming in that usually comes in. So they're having severe budget issues. And I mentioned this last time, I'll mention it again. The budget issue is so bad that if someone wants to donate free land to them, they can't take it because they can't even assign people to go out and look at it and verify and do all the paperwork and stuff on it. So they can't even accept free land right now. And at the meeting, there was a that came up during the meeting. Someone was actually trying to donate some free land, and the staff said, we can't take it. We don't have the funds and the money for the people to handle that. We just can't. We can't even do it. I mean, that's how bad right now they're working through the crunch with the budget issues. That's all.
Thank you. We'll go to standing committees now. Finance, Director Malloy.
Yeah, we met September 16th and worked on the numbers that Leo generated that we reviewed tonight. Planning our way through this. As you know, when we did our budget meetings and our budget workshops, we were already in the pandemic, and we took sort of a worst-case scenario, but we have a lot more reality to that now than we did then, and we're watching everything really close. It's going to be very tight this year, but I think we're going to make it. I don't anticipate that we're going to have to reduce our workforce, which is a very high priority here and something we've focused on being able to do from the very beginning. We have a huge investment in our staff, and we want to protect that to the degree that we can right to the very end. So I want to make sure that there's no misunderstanding there, that we're not ready to just start shipping people out so that we're comfortable with our money. That is absolutely not the case, and that's why we're keeping such a close eye on the numbers.
Okay. Liaison committee for.
Liaison has not met.
Okay. All right. Long range. Who's reporting on long range? Mark.
Yeah, I'd love to. We had we had a really great tour of the trail, the Las Posas Equestrian. I've mentioned this to a few people, and somebody said, "You guys have a horse park?" I said, "Yeah," and a trail goes with it. And I've actually been around long enough to remember when the board discussed this before, and it was a really difficult legal thorny issue because it involves a lot of property owners that own property that butts in the middle, and we have either ownership rights or easement rights to a little strip of it for a trail. And as you can imagine, over this really long period of time since this deal was, things have changed. And the nature of it is that the homes that are on both sides of the trail are relatively high, and there's steep sides on both sides in some places and some other places not. But in many of the places, the properties are essentially eroding, and literally pieces of fence and trees are falling down the hill. And because there's so little use of that trail based on our measurements, and we generally react when people say, "Hey, we need more of this," and Bob's staff reacts when something happens out there and needs maintenance. In fact, we identified a couple of maintenance issues when we were out there. But it was really great to get the members of the community to see what some of the challenges were, and the fact that we're working on this so early, because we literally have to get a bunch of property owners on board to make this thing happen. But there are challenges with the property that most people weren't aware of. Because the horse users have just been using it, and nobody ever really paid attention to what's legal and what isn't. And in fact, the access to the trail from the bottom end is blocked by county flood control, and staff's already working with county flood control to try and let's get that hurdle out of the way so we can get that done safely and legally for the horses to come and the people to come through. Because over time, the upper entrance to the trail, which is on a really busy street, the main street in Las Posas, is not really accessible by horse. So the only places that are legal to access it by horse is at the park. And that involves, for most people, trailering your horse there and, causing that a problem. So what we really need to do is get the owners on board and understand what their responsibilities are, and come up with a plan that, will carry us forward for another long period of time before it has to be dealt with again, but retains the access of the horses and the use of the park, and hopefully maybe even expand the trails when we get everything set, because now it's so short, there's very little that we can do with it. But getting the Trails Committee people, and as Audra meant in her message here today, getting them involved has really been helping, because as you know, we work so much better when we work with our partners that tell us what it is they need, and as opposed to when we're just trying to figure out what it is they need and getting them to help us, because I know that that's going to work a lot better than if we just said, oh, we're doing this now. Everybody, you have to agree. That will never work. And I think they put together a petition, and of course, the whole community up there loves the idea of having horse trails, and it's unique to us. Most of our parks are little pocket parks that were given to us when houses got built. This is a really unique park that actually reflects the needs of the people in that area. So the first time I looked at it and looked at some of these trees that are really hanging by the roots, and it sort of terrified me. But the more I look at it, the more I was like, it's just another thing that we have to work through. And I think it can be done, especially with the community's help. So.
Do you have anything to add, Bob?
No, I just want to echo what Director Malloy said. It's going out there and actually seeing, you almost get the point where you wonder if a place like that even exists in Camarillo anymore, And yes, there's definitely some challenges. They were very obvious. There were instances where the corner of, as Mark said, the corner of a fence just hanging out in air, because the soil had eroded out from underneath it. And I remember wondering at the time, what are they going to do about that? Or what are we going to do about that? Whose responsibility is that? But the people that came along, they got a chance to really see what we're up against, and as Mark said, it's going to take all of us working together to meet the challenge, and I believe that we will do it also.
Well, it definitely appears that we have a group that's willing to work, and it sounds like they were happy with the meeting, so we've taken the right step forward, I think, so. Okay, personnel?
We had a short meeting. We talked about IDL and another subject that I cannot remember, but it's a work under progress still, and that's all I have to report on it.
I think we discussed health benefits, and from SDR May, we compared prices.
Oh, yes, I recall now. I could not, as I left all my stuff out in the car, I could not.
That just came to me as we were talking. So.
Yeah, I should have just passed to you.
Well, it didn't come to me just then, so. Policy Committee?
Policy Committee has been working all year on a tournament scheduling policy, and we're making 2 steps forward and 1 step back sometimes, but making progress on it, and we are meeting again later this month.
Miracle League, Mr. Malloy. We didn't meet this month, did we?
I can't remembering when the last time we met. Was it not this month?
No, it's probably been about a month. They're looking, things are still moving forward. We're going back and forth right now. They're looking over the agreement that I sent. They're also looking over some other stuff, so it'll come back to committee once they're done looking through it, but it's still progressing. It's just taking a little bit more time.
Is this more of a legal issue, the details?
Yeah, so one of the things from the committee that we're working on last time was a construction agreement. So we started out with a construction agreement, have sent that over to them. They've sent some stuff back. I've sent stuff back over, so it's still going back and forth. And they wanted to start to look at potentially maintenance and use. So I sent them they want to do it all at once. So if that's what they want to do, I gave them a bunch of samples. They wanted to start working on that, so that could help them keep some of the costs down for attorney fees. So that's where it's at. It's just going back and forth, and it's taking a little bit longer. They've actually retained an attorney right now, so I think that's helping as well. So. Okay.
All right. Nexus study.
Waiting for that to come back.
Okay, I was going to say, we're waiting for that.
For a draft.
Okay, yep. All right. Okay, the Foundation for Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks is in holding status at this point, so we will move forward to H, to the general manager's report, please.
All right, let me see if I can get all my documents that need to go over. So just a quick update, I think I mentioned this last time, but we'll have the second phase of the audit, which will be coming, that'll be October 26th and 27th, so they'll be in the office going through all the stuff that they need to do. It was already brought up in the highlights, but we have, the district, once again, will be a voting location for both vote in person, and then we'll have a mail drop box. Those hours have been extended, so the in-person voting location will be open for 4 days, starting October 31st through November 3rd. We'll be using room 7, so that way they have more space. If you remember in the past, they've used the conference room, so due to COVID, they just need more space. So speaking of COVID, in the ever-changing world, some new updates. If you haven't seen, Ventura County has now moved from the purple to the red tier. So that allows us to move fitness classes indoors with 10% capacity and 12 feet social distancing. So that means some of our senior fitness classes, we have a Tai Chi class, and then we have a jazzercise class, which is perfect timing because some of those classes aren't until like 5, 6 o'clock at night. So as it's starting to get a little darker, a little cooler, those can now move back inside. So we will have a lot of happy people with that. It also allows for ceremonial or places of worship to move indoors if they so choose, so long as they meet all the requirements. It's 25% capacity or 100 people, whichever is fewer. So I know we've reached out to both Journey and Faith Tabernacle, who rent our facilities, to see where they're at with that. So it'll be dependent on when they get information back and when they're ready. So one is meeting outside currently, and the other one is chosen to still do video or online. So the next step hopefully would be for Ventura County to move to the orange tier. What that means is on average we can't have any more than 36 new cases per day, which is a case rate of 5.5. So still right now we have 5.5. We have to get below 3.9 or below. Right now the positivity rate we have 3.6, which we're in the orange, and the healthy equity measure, which was added, is in the orange tier at 3.6. So we have to remain in the red tier for 2 weeks. If we can get the positivity case rate down, then there's a chance in 2 to 3 weeks that we could move into the orange. If we move into the orange, that does allow us to open back up the pool. I know Macy isn't here, but she would be jumping up and down if we're able to get that, and I know as well as the community. So they were really sad when we had to close that, but once again, that was due to COVID. So the next item is legislation. So there's new changes to the Family Rights Act, which will be sitting on a webinar on October 15th. There's I think last night with VCSDA, Elaine went over a few. I'll have more in depth for the November meeting. I'm sitting on a conference call tomorrow for CARPD, which is California Recreation and Parks, which will be going over all the specifics that affect park districts. So some of the legislation that Elaine Freeman went over yesterday dealt with water, all other kinds of things. So we'll have more of an in-depth of what and how it affects the district for the November board meeting. The last couple items that I have is, I think everybody knows, about 2 years ago, we had a bunch of pickleball players that were in here wanting courts. If you have not heard, due to COVID, we've also seen an increase in pickleball players. So currently trying to work with them and look at what resources we may have out there. So I drove by last night after we got off our webinar, and there was probably 50 people waiting to play at Kildee. So we can come back with some pilots to look at. I know any of those might potentially cost some resources, money. So what staff can do is actually look at that and bring some back, or if the board so chose, if you wanted to do an ad hoc or something like that to look at some of these issues in a more controlled. So Other than that, the last thing I have is that I was informed by the Camarillo Acorn yesterday, Monday. Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District received a California Voter Right Act violation from Mr. Schenkman on May 6th. So the Acorn had emailed and asked specifically regarding that subject. Specifically that subject, it has been in closed session. The district has been, just so everybody knows, the district had been considering moving to district for some time, but then hit pause when the pandemic struck, as they want the public to be able to fully participate. So currently there's a Governor Newsom proclaimed a state of emergency as a result of COVID. He also issued Executive Order N34-20 and N48-20. These orders suspended the timeframe for conducting public hearings required when a political subdivision changes from at-large method of election to district-based elections. These executive orders is to ensure the public has the ability to participate in the districting process. So as most of us know, if you've ever, and like what's happening tonight, trying to participate in a matter that's that important is really hard to do over a Zoom, over live stream. So the district put that on pause. Once the executive order has been rescinded, the district will agendize the item in order for the public to have a robust conversation. The second part of that, so everybody knows, is that Mr. Schenkman has since lost an appeals by the city of Santa Monica, and the appeals court ruling has indicated if it goes to the Supreme Court, and it could, and if it does go to the Supreme Court, and depending on the ruling comes out, it could affect future cases. So with that being said, everything has been put on pause, and if it is not taken up by the Supreme Court, the district will have to, once again, proceed with the districting process. If the court does decide to review it, a new set of rules could be put into place. So we are all still missing some key facts on both sides of that, which will be relevant as we move forward. So just so everybody knows, because I believe that article will be coming out on Friday, but that's where it's at. That's why the district pushed pause, and due to COVID and making sure that we could actually deal with issues, dealing with COVID, making sure that we could keep parks open, and all of those kinds of things. So just as an FYI, and I think with that, I think those are the updates that I have.
Okay. You and I had talked about doing an ad hoc committee for the pickleball thing. I think maybe we should move forward with that. I think I've gotten 2 more emails today. One of them was from somebody who was one of those 50 people waiting to get on the court last night. So I think we probably need to move forward so that it can look like we are going to deal with it, because I think pickleball is here to stay, and I'm happy it is, and I'll get my other knee fixed so that I can play. And so Director Dixon and I will be on that committee. Okay?
Neil, does that mean you're going to go out there and hit the ball and play, and so you can get firsthand experience?
I might. I actually have never played.
So we'll do that, and Mary, you can time when you have time. We've got other things on our plate right now, I understand. So, but at least we can assure the public that we're conscious of what they have a need, and we're willing to deal with it. So, or look into it at least and see what options we have and move forward. So, okay. We will go to oral communications now. Director Kelly, would you like to?
Yeah, I just have a couple of quick items. I'm not going to keep everybody here forever.
Okay.
I know it's already been a long meeting. First of all, the other night, and I've touched on this subject before, it's dear to my heart because I know eventually something really bad is going to happen. And that is, I was driving down Ponderosa Avenue going east the other night, and there was a bicyclist in the bike lane, and I don't know if it was a big pickup, like a 250 or 350 or something like that, all raised up. And the person on the bike kind of had a little bit of loss of balance or was trying to do something else, or I'm not quite sure what he was doing, but he took a quick little left-hand turn and ended up in the well, it doesn't take much. It only takes like about a foot. And the truck, I was sure the truck was going to hit the guy, but at the last second, the guy in the truck veered away and just missed him. I'm not against bike lanes, so all you bikers out there, don't send me a bunch of emails, but that place is dangerous, especially at night. And this particular rider was not wearing one of the vests or so forth. I mean, I don't get that either. But somebody's going to get hit and hurt or killed. And the city needs to pay attention to this. I know they don't want to make a bunch of bike people upset, but the street's just not wide enough for the two types of vehicles on the same street. There are other places in Camarillo that are equally as bad. They need to do an assessment to make sure that the bike riders as well as who wants to be in the car when a guy veers out and it's only a foot and hits the mirror on your truck or something? You don't want to be that guy. Believe me, you'll have a lot of trouble for a number of years. So I'm urging the city, please do a study or something and take care of that problem. Next, this is an old issue. It's recited every single meeting that we have by the chair, and sometimes it's done so often that people don't really remember it. And that is that when you are allowed to speak during the oral communication period, those items are non-agendized. They're not on our agenda. If they were on the agenda, your ability to speak to us would be placed and called when the agenda item came up, and you would be able to allow questions, and we could converse back and forth and so forth. During the oral communication, I can't say never. I mean, there are certain small instances where a board member might say something to correct an error or something, or give direction, but we are generally not allowed to discuss non-agendized items. When the public has an opportunity to speak at that time, they can bring up their issue so that we are aware of it. And if it is determined that that issue warrants coming on our agenda, it will be placed on the agenda. Secondary to that, you can always call the district, and you can always get a live body to talk to about your issue. Maybe fight for it, push it to get on the agenda, do whatever you need to do. It may take a little work, but when we don't respond back, it's not because we don't want to. Believe me, I'm sure there's some members of this board as it sits here tonight that would like to respond when people make comments that are either inaccurate or personal or what have you. But generally we refrain from doing it because there's all kinds of rules that we have to follow, and we try to follow them. Another thing, I want to clear up an error that I've seen getting passed around a little bit in the community, social media and so forth, and that is, what is a recreational specialist? A recreational specialist is at the Park and Rec is an entry-level position. It doesn't take a college degree in recreation or anything like that. If you look like you can do the job, maybe you'll get hired and maybe you won't, but it does not, that term does not mean that you have a ton of credentials in recreation and parks. And with that, that's all I have.
I
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you to Elaine for congratulations for becoming the new upcoming vice president for the California Special Districts Association. That she spent all that time talking. You're wondering why. And if you're wondering why she was spending all that time talking, she's the new vice president for that same statewide group up there in Sacramento. And I'm glad you're going up there and back and forth, and I don't have to. So I've done it a few times up to there for other things, and but you seem to like it, so that's perfect. That's great.
Well, my husband has already asked, when's your next trip?
Yeah, there you go. See, so congratulations, and thank you for all your effort on that. It takes a lot of time. Not only to travel back and forth, but you have all these big, long meetings. They got big, long documents, a lot of stuff they have to work through, and they have all these different special districts doing different things, like Elaine was talking about, across this entire state of California. And as you can see, as Elaine mentioned, it's not only California, but sometimes we're doing stuff with other states and even federal law sometimes that impact us, in addition to state law and stuff. So it's always a big headache. And it's always easier to work the stuff up front than it is to get clobbered with something and then try to fix it later. So thank you very much for all that, Elaine.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you.
Next, I want to say thank you to Eric and the staff. Eric's still here. Eric's in the back. I can see him. Thank you. Over the last several weeks, Eric and his staff have been working up proposals or tentative proposals with the Boys and Girls Club and the Pleasant Valley School District to see if there was some way our staffing could work with their staffing to help the community. That maybe didn't get very far, but the point was that we're out here, we're trying to interface with those guys. I want to thank Eric for doing that. Also, Eric also had and his staff worked with the city on another city proposal to interface and help the public here in the community. And thank you for that. I guess they're going on from Plan A to Plan B or Plan C or Plan D by now. I've lost track. So they're working on those things, again, to interface and help the public as much as possible during the pandemic. I also want to thank all the staff, Parks, and also the staff in the office for work on the new digital sign out front here, up the road at our community center. It's the old sign was like 40 years old or something and falling down or something. But it's nice to have a sign that now people can actually get real information from, and it's a big plus for the community. Thank you very much for all that. Oh, we had that letter Mary mentioned. This is for people to know in the background. The city, the Camarillo Healthcare District, and Pleasant Valley School District have already gone through all that exercise. So it was no surprise to me when we got a letter, like we're the last of the list. And so obviously sometime probably in next year in 2021, that will come up once the governor and the pandemic dies down, we can start addressing that. And as Mary mentioned, another variable, there's a bunch of variables in the mix. And one of them is also the new census, of course. So we have to wait and see what the new census is. If we have time for that, we'll see what the time frame is, because that will also have a big impact on what's going to be going on. And Miracle League. I want to mention that I'm happy that we're moving forward. I wish we would have moved forward faster by now. I thought we were close, but maybe we're getting closer. And it's nice that we're working with a group like that, a user group, and that would be potentially a great benefit not only for the whole community and stuff by working together. And I'm looking forward to seeing the final agreement to see how we can move forward with that. Thank you. Thank you, staff, for all that.
Yeah. Just wanted to briefly say something about, of course, we're in the middle of an election season. It's kind of going strong right now. But I think something that people need to pay really close attention to there are 12 ballot initiatives on the ballot this year. And it's really important that people take a really, really close look at those things, because it can be the titles of those things and the brief descriptions you read about them can be very deceiving. Very often buried within those are provisions that you would not think are even related to the ballot issue, or things that may be entirely opposed to what you would want to vote for, even though the name of the ballot, the issue might sound really good. So just to encourage everyone to carefully pay attention to those things, read them very closely. It's, in my view, a ballot initiative. It's the job of the people proposing the ballot initiative to make their case for why it should be passed, and not the other way around. So I typically go into these things with the attitude of, I'm going to vote no unless you convince me yes. And so anyway, I just think those things do really have some very significant effects on our lives. And so pay close attention to those and read them carefully.
Okay. Director Malloy.
And I will just update you quickly on the latest status of one of the largest public recreation spaces in Camarillo, which unfortunately is not ours. It's the Camarillo Springs Golf Course, which is privately owned. On the 21st of September, the EIR report was released. And on the 23rd of September, the City Council did their triennial review. And I find it amusing that the EIR report was released so close to the council meeting that it was very hard for any of them to make any sense of it. But the most important thing is that Councilman Kildee indicated that he no longer supports this project. He described it as having too many moving parts, which I think is a really succinct way of saying the obvious. So now there's 2 council members opposed to the project. The EIR goes into public comment period, started on the 21st for 45 days. Members of the public can submit their questions, and there's a number of them there. But the thing that became most clear and is not really clear to the community yet is they've been selling this project as coming along with a new golf course. And in fact, the new golf course is not even discussed or mentioned in the EIR. It's all about approving the housing. The golf course project is just acting like it doesn't exist and isn't a part of this approval process. So the council will continue to get technical review on the project, and I expect at the end of the 45-day review period, then the city staff has to compile answers. That's expected to take a month to 2 to compile the answers, return the answers to the people that sent the inquiries, and then make a presentation to the council where determination on whether to go forward on the project will happen or not. So that's just an update on where we are with that. That's all I have.
Very interesting. Well, I usually don't end it up like this, but I'm going to. I'm very honored to have been chosen as the Vice President of CSDA for the 2021 year. I am also very proud to be the representative from the Coastal Network, which is the Ventura, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Monterey, Santa Cruz counties. I'm one of 3, and so I'm very proud to do that. I don't care for the travel as much as I think I do, but during COVID, and we experienced it again tonight, that trying to do meetings and things on Zoom and things are extremely difficult. And I know Mike, the Conservancy, has the same issues as the CSDA does. We sometimes have agendas that are 300 and 400 pages. And when you try to cover that much information on Zoom in one sitting, it's like, guys, we need to have a break, and it gets very long. And but I'm very, very happy to represent our district in our area. One of the things, and this is back to Mr. Mishler, he's very big on branding. And as I was going through my CSDA today to get ready for tonight, I found that CSDA's got an issue with branding. So, and I'm going to bring it up because it's something I want to share with everybody. In the state of California, if an organization is considered a recreation and park district, it is a special district. If it is listed as a park and recreation organization or department, it is usually connected to a city or a county. And that's part of the branding. And I remember when I first got on this board, I was just appalled when people would say we were part of the city, and I know Mike was too. And it's like, no, we're a recreation and park district, we are a special district, we're independent. And we have 5 elected officials, and PVRPD came into being before the city did in this area, and I'm very proud that we did. And so I will make sure that CSDA gets their wording correct. And Mary even talked about CPRS, which is an organization of California Recreation and Park Districts, and they are all special districts. So I think that's very, very important. And Jessica, this is for you. I thank you for working with the 2 individuals that you worked with to get that marquee, and for them pushing for that extra pixel count, because you can see that, Mike and Mark, that just, that sets that whole corner off. I go by there about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and you can see that forever, and I'm very, very proud of it. So, as I am very, very proud of all of our staff. So, thank you very much, and we will make this long night come to an end. So, thank you. Be safe, everyone.